Hospital Porter's pride and dignity. Stop the New World Order. Welcome to Panlo TV. Welcome to South Park, or as it's called at this time of year, South Mud Pit. Because that's pretty much what it is. I mean, you can see grass growing at the moment, but literally, this time of year, in this weather, this park becomes pretty much unusable. There were some drainage channels, they've all broken, and they're all blocked or broken. So yeah, it's not a place really. You see, no one's really around here because it's so muddy. So we basically go without a park in this area in the winter months. I'm off on another adventure. Not a very long one this time. Not going very far, but it's a pretty cool one, and it's a working trip. I am speaking. I'll just show you a little bit more about it. And so this is the event I'm going to. It's the Essex UFO and Paranormal Group. And they meet up at the first Friday of every month, as you can see here. And I am tonight's speaker, as you can see there. Ben Emlyn-Jones is a former hospital porter and independent journalist who, over the course of his life, has come to realise that the subjects most people laugh at, like UFOs, the paranormal and government cover-ups, are real. Not only are they real, but they are also the most important issues affecting the world today. Gaining an understanding of them has become a necessity. And it gives me... That's a good bio, actually, there. That's a good bio. Yeah, I'm going to do a little talk about exopolitics and disclosure, which is, of course, a subject I do come back to quite regularly. So, yeah, if you care to accompany me, we'll go there now. So that's where I'm going. It's interesting, you know, I've never been to Southend before. I'm curious to see it because it has a very long pier, which hopefully we'll take a look at. It's actually the world's longest pier, and it goes out about a mile or more, I think. So that's what I'm hoping to see as well. There's no rush because I'm going to stay overnight and come back tomorrow. But I'm doing my talk tonight, the history of exopolitics one, which will be slightly different to the last one. I always make them a little bit different because, of course, things are like moving very quickly and things are developing. I just go back to the mud again. There's a lot of developments, it's changing very quickly. So, you know, last time it was drones, and now it's like, you know, lights in the sky and stuff like that. So, you know, the 3 lights orbiting. So, that's what I'm going to be doing. But it's a good group. I've heard of it before. Lots of nice people there. Maybe someone I'll need to avoid, but he might not even be there. But anyway, here we go. I'm going to head for the coach stop. Right, everyone, this is where I was when I had the Mandela effect last time. Just before the A40 joins the M40. And it hasn't changed, it's still the same. It hasn't flipped back. There's a bit of blue sky up there, but rain's forecast to continue all afternoon. As long as it stops when the event happens, because the event's not till 7:15. So if it's dry by then, hopefully I'll get plenty of people, because rain tends to keep people away from these things, unfortunately. Well, welcome to London. How long has it been since I was here last?
Okay.
Hello.
You haven't got £2 coin, have you?
I don't, sorry, no. Okay. How long has it been since I've been here? A few months. I think it was when I went to Watford. I can't even remember. I come here quite a lot. But anyway, here I am, and now I'm going to go into Victoria Station, and I'll be familiar, a place I'm familiar with. Then I've got to get to the Circle and District line, and I'm going right off the beaten track then, because I've got to get to Fenchurch Street Station. It's a place I've never been before, and get a train to Southend. And so that'll be completely new to me, and so it'll be the first time you've seen that on this channel, which should be quite something. Anyway, here we go. Oh, looks like they finally fixed this escalator. It took them about 6 months. That's about average these days, isn't it? Anyway, it's Victoria Station. Well, look at that. There's now a Stranger Things stage show. Yeah. So, Woo Woo hits the West End. Here's the underground station. Some of these quite new ones. is different on the other lines. Like the Victoria line's different. Ah, the sun's coming out. Now this is Tower Hill Underground Station, and there is the Tower of London, a place I hope to see Keir Starmer very soon. And I've now got to find Fenchurch Street Station. I'm really stepping out into the unknown now. But according to ChatGPT, it's quite easy to get to from here, and there are signs that tell you where it is. Although I can't see any right now. There you go. But there's a Tower Hill tram, and oh, there's a map over there. That helps. Let's have a look. I'm here. I've got to get there. So yeah, Cooper's Row, which is that way. If I go that way, apparently I can get there. So yeah, that's where we go. This is Cooper's Row. Yeah, Gemma has a road named after her, and I'm now heading up here. Now this is starting to look a bit familiar, and I'm actually wondering if this might be where we came when we went to the Anthony Peake book launch. This little street, this little bridge here looks a bit familiar. Maybe this is where we went when Anthony Peake had his book launch. When was it? Last year sometime, if I remember. And there's a symbol on that bridge anyway for the railway network. So I'm sort of heading up in the right way now. We can just double check on the map where we are. It's handy having these maps here. I haven't brought my big map thing with me. And there we are. You're heading up here, and then we've got Fenchurch Street Station. It's just up here. I'm even closer, so I can't see where I get in. There's a gate that's shut. There's another one along the way that is kind of. There's another one which is sort of. It looks like an underground station only. Outside the Munich cricket club, as if the bloody Jerry's played cricket. Michael Shrimpton will be tearing his hair out at that. But anyway, this is where I am now. If I walk along here, maybe there's a way in. I don't know. See, oh yeah, there's a way in here. See, Fenchurch Place. I might have to walk all the way around. I've got plenty of time. It's only like about 2:30, so I don't have to be there till 7. So there's no real rush, I suppose. I can take my time. I always try to like not leave things too late. Okay, I've come to the top of this. There's the Windsor at Fenchurch. And it says here, no doubt you're entering the City of London. So you're in the square mile here, which is of course an independent state run by the financial wing of the Illuminati. But I don't have time to talk to you about that in detail, but many other people have. You know, Edward G. Griffin, etc. Fenchurch Street Station. Now this looks like a proper entrance, doesn't it? So yeah, maybe this is maybe I finally got there. Hey guys, this is Fenchurch Street Station. Never been here before, but I'm now heading. There's this train in 20 minutes. Should take about just under an hour to get there. So yeah, no, it's quite quick. The staff feel very helpful. I just asked them where to go, and they told me. So yeah, I'm impressed with that. It says Southend Central there. Okay, guys. There's no real rush. It's only, of course, not even 3 PM yet, and so there's no rush. I've literally got like 4 hours to get there. That'll be easy enough. But I'm staying at a hotel, so I think the guys have organised it. The group has organised it, so I'm going to. I'll check in when I arrive. They give me all the booking references and things, so I'll do that first. Off into the unknown. Looks grim. Nice graffiti there. They put some of that in Oxford. I'll put it in my Oxford graffiti video. It's a nice mix of architecture, old and new together. It's dark out now. Started raining again. Did you know I have my own navy? There we are. What's that huge building there? Don't know what that is anyway. Welcome to Southend, guys. It's very dark. It's raining. It feels like I'm stuck in the film Blade Runner. But anyway, I made it. Let's just hope the rain doesn't keep the attendees away tonight. You can see it's one of these nice old-fashioned stations. It reminds me a bit of Weymouth, actually. It's like a terminus station. Okay, welcome to Southend. This is it, a place I've never been to before. Yes. It's amazing how I sort of get around places, and then I think to myself, where am I going now? But yeah, that's right. So I think I'm using my phone map to navigate. And David, my host, is actually not that one. Another David. He's actually waiting around the corner for me while the Wetherspoons want to be staying. So I'm heading there now. Keep my viewers updated. I'm now with David in his car. And we're heading through the streets of Southend. It's a place I've never been to before. I'm actually staying at the Wetherspoons pub. I'll show you that later. And now heading towards David's house because he's got pizza on the go, I believe.
We have got pizza on the go, and it should be very nice.
Oh, cool! Lovely. What's this group you got? Is it what's it like? This group?
It's rubbish.
Is it?
Absolute garbage.
Oh, now he tells me. I've travelled 150 miles, and now he tells me.
We've been going for 7 years now, having meetings.
Oh, cool.
I'll be honest with you, recently, in the last, say, 6 or 7 months, numbers have dropped off.
Oh.
We've been getting good numbers, and hopefully we'll get good numbers tonight, but you just never know.
It's hard to predict. I mean, weather, unfortunately, is bad weather.
Doesn't help at all, because some people walk there, you know.
Although the rain is actually forecast to stop by 6, so I hope that's true. I hope that's true.
Yeah, I hope it's true too. So yeah, we have very good speakers, yourself included.
Oh, thanks. I saw your list. I've shown the viewers the website with all your people. Yeah. I've also shared this on my network, so hopefully, try and encourage people I know to come along. I know a lot of people in London. Hopefully they'll be there.
It's an awkward trip. Well, not awkward, but getting back again is the problem, isn't it?
Without an overnight stay, yeah. I mean, it's
with people lately. They don't seem to want to go out.
Yeah, it's a shame that. But
I mean, it's the reason I started the group up way back. I've started sort of having meetings. I started the website and then had the meetings directly after lockdown.
Oh, right. Well,
because no one was doing anything. I mean, we were getting 90 and 100 people because no one had been anywhere. We're also the only people, really, this side of London that actually do this.
As meetings, regular meetings.
So, you'd think that would be very popular, but I think people have got a little bit... I think they're too tied to their screens now,
That's a shame, because I mean, it's the ability to go out and meet people in real life. It's just such a precious thing. I mean, I don't have anyone in my life I can talk to about this sort of thing.
No, really? Yes.
No one at home, and my family, and I don't really have many friends in Oxford. It's just there's people I work for because I'm self-employed, and I just stick. I'm very professional with them. But yeah, it's a pity that because like the ability to meet people is just so. It's just so precious, and I always look forward to conferences and events like this. I really do.
It is because people will tell you a lot more when you're talking privately to if you're on the screen and what have you.
Yeah.
And I mean, I did a podcast actually on Monday night, and this guy was in Thailand doing it.
Oh, cool.
And the thing is, I couldn't see him, so it was purely voice, and it really did throw me, not actually having a face to say. And a nice guy, everything else, but he didn't say a word. I just started talking. And it was just me talk. And in the end I thought, is he still there?
It's shit, because I've done loads of interviews, and I don't mind, like, if people keep interjecting and interrupting and butting in, it's always
difficult. But then the other old stream is just people who just sit there and let you roll downhill. And I think to myself, come on, ask me a question.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Anyway, I thought it was going to be about an hour. It was about an hour and 40 odd minutes.
Oh, right.
I didn't realise. I came out and I looked at the clock in the kitchen. I thought, oh, 45 minutes. Yeah, that wasn't too bad. Then I realised it wasn't. It was an hour and 40 odd minutes. Yeah. All this is caused, by the way, the traffic, because at that end of town they're digging it up.
Oh, I see.
And that's going to take 4 years, apparently.
Oh, my goodness.
It's going to cost 40 million quid.
Oh, no.
Nobody knows what the heck they're doing it for. Why are they doing it?
Yeah, maybe they're turning into another 15-minute city like Oxford.
Well, possibly, yeah. It's, well, highly likely.
Oh,
That
okay.
seems right. Do you know, well, I don't know. That's my friend's, he phoned me up the other day, and his wife's daughter goes to school in Ipswich, and the headmaster there has told the girls, as an experiment, we're going to cover the girls' legs up and arms up, just as an experiment to see how it is, you know. And obviously the reason why is obvious. And so she's pulled them out of the school, got in another school.
I don't blame her. It's not the job of the school to subject their children to social experiments. That is disgusting. That is disgusting.
No, it absolutely isn't the job
okay.
of the school.
Yeah.
Well, you know who the head of Ofsted is, don't you?
Oh, it's probably some like New World Order, like globalist liberal or something.
If you put in your phone head of Ofsted, you'll see it.
I'll go and do that now. Hang on.
This is the venue, the Balmoral Community Centre. Yeah, I've just been eating pizza. I mean, I was with Dave and his wife Sue and their friend Phil, and they got like a pizza oven, and you know, it's just like really proper stuff. You know, not like the supermarket thing you just put in the microwave. They've been cooking proper pizza, and it's delicious. And I haven't eaten today, so it's just what I needed. So they made me a nice big pizza, so that's great. And I've been talking to them about UFOs and conspiracies and paranormal stuff. So yeah, I had a really, really good time. And so now I'm getting ready to start my talk. All kicks off at 7:15. We're here a little bit early, just setting stuff up. You know, chairs, putting chairs out and stuff. Here's my setup. Sue's just made me a cup of coffee, which is nice. And here we have the Roswell trilogy, which I'm advertising on this big TV. It's a big TV screen rather than a projector. I mean, the thing about this, it's a bit better actually, because you don't get like. The thing about projectors is you have to frame them, and you've got to focus them and things like this. And it's actually I won't show you the audience; they may not want to be on camera, but. These TVs are actually a lot better. They're a lot. It's a big TV that the whole audience can see. Anyway, we've got like about 20 people here so far. Yeah. So welcome to Essex, guys. Thank you very much. I haven't put my leg warmers on yet. Haven't eaten any Angel Delight, and I haven't learned to say "fucking hell" at the top of my voice. But I'll get used to it. Thanks, Sue. But I'll get used to this place, I'm sure. Oh, and Sue has just left me some biscuits. Oh, nice.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming along tonight, and what a lovely turnout, eh? All the old faces about. The young ones, well, mostly old. Anyway, we'll go into it. You know the routine, don't you? Fire door, ladies' toilet, gents' toilet. Don't use the lift if there's a fire. Also, there's a fire door there. Now, I always forget what it is I'm supposed to say at the beginning. So, obviously, if you've got a phone, could you put it on silent, please? Which will be good. And hello. Yes, one of our members, Mike.
Do mine as well.
Unfortunately, he passed. He always used to sit in the front. He was a detective in the police for 30 years. He was a gentleman that used to sit in the front and always asked, being a copper. Oh, sorry, I know we've got a few here. Sorry. He used to ask some very awkward questions, which were really good. Well, it's been a while since we've had a bit of a meeting, hasn't it? He's pointing over there. Right, okay. We'll go to that. There are some books there. There's lovely collections of books. There's some beautiful books there, some very up to date. Please help yourself. If you want to leave a shilling or two donation, that would be much appreciated. And okay, so we're quickly moving on. As you all know, we do meet the first Friday in every single month, and the next Friday, the next meeting we have in March that will be Andrew Collins. I'm sure you know about Andy Collins. And basically, Andy is going to be speaking about what he's found about underneath the pyramids. I'm sure you've all seen what's going on there. Yeah, so basically, who are you?
I don't know, I was just passing by.
This is Ben, and he's come all the way down from Oxford to see us today. And you didn't have the greatest voice. It wasn't too bad a journey.
That was all right. It was
got a bit lost this end. He was fine until he got to Southend. He got completely lost. I was chasing him around the houses. So, Ben, I'll let you introduce yourself, mate. Ladies and gentlemen, Ben Emlyn-Jones.
Well, thank you all of you for coming out on this evening. It's not been the best of weather. I'm glad to see the rain has stopped. I was a bit worried about it carrying on, and no one wants to go out when it's raining, do they? But my name is Ben Emlyn-Jones. I am I suppose you call me a researcher, independent journalist, activist in the world of UFOs, the paranormal, conspiracy theories. These are things that most people laugh at. Most people don't believe are real, although increasing number do. Increasing number of people do understand these things are real now. I've come to realise through the course of my lifetime that what I've just mentioned, this list of subjects I've just mentioned, is not only real, it's the most important issue affecting the human race and planet Earth today, and gaining an understanding of these things has become a necessity. To give you a little bit of background, this is my website here, Hospital Porters Against the New World Order. That was me, the portering Buddha. I was a hospital porter for 23 years, yeah, and I'm 2012, I was unceremoniously discharged from the NHS in very suspicious circumstances, which I don't have time to tell that story tonight, but it is directly connected to what I'm talking about and what I have been talking about. I've been speaking openly about this for, well, that's over 20 years now, and I've been, for over 30 years, I've been a sort of believer and taking these things seriously. So today we're going to talk about the UFO phenomenon and the politics, how it relates to the political world. I tend to see the UFO phenomenon as some kind of infernal triangle with at each corner you have the extraterrestrial beings themselves who are interacting with us, the human population, and then the state. It's a complicated triangle, but I mean, I focus primarily, I can do a 2-hour talk on all three sides of that triangle, but I'm focusing primarily on the one between the people and the state in this particular talk. But yeah, we are not alone. We are being interacted with non-human intelligences on this planet. That they're not out there. They're down here with us. They come from out there, but they are here with us. They have been for a very long time, probably as long as we've been here. And this presence has become more and more apparent since the mid-20th century because of several events. The Kenneth Arnold sighting, the Roswell incident, which started the modern UFO era, although the UFOs themselves are far older and they go back much further, and the aliens that are inside them. There has been a policy in government circles centered on the United States of America. For whatever reason, that country seems to have been, through the 20th century and into this century, the primary organizer of this policy, which most nation states obey without question, especially when it comes to the acquisition of decisive forensic evidence, what's sometimes known as crash retrievals, where a craft will actually come to grief on the Earth's surface and be secretly salvaged, and sometimes the beings that pilot them as well. This policy lasted exactly 5 years. Sorry, this policy lasted exactly 70 years and 5 months. How can I time it that precisely? Because it started in July of 1947 with the dispatch of what's called the Cutler-Twining Memo, in which a General Nathan Cutler spoke to General Robert Twining. Sorry, it was Hillencutter, Admiral Hillencutter, first head of the CIA, sent a document stating that although flying saucers, as they called them in those days, were real, and they are not of human construction and are distinct evidence of a non-human intelligence from another planet, We cannot let people know about this. We have to keep this secret from the population for a whole list of reasons that I'm going to go into tonight. And that this secrecy should be maintained by suppression, but also official ridicule and denial. And that's denial. Obviously, denial is saying they're not real. Ridicule could be a news story. You've probably seen these kinds of news stories. The novelty ones at the end when they want to have a laugh, where they talk about UFO event. And so there's the newsreader sitting there all serious, and then somebody will dangle a model flying saucer from a string above him. And then they'll play the X-Files theme tune, you know, that kind of thing. So that policy lasted for 7 years and 5 months. I know it's that precisely because it ended in December of 2017 with the publication of an article by Leslie Kane and Ralph Blumenthal in the New York Times referring to this. Well, when this first appeared, most people didn't believe it was real. They thought students might have made it. I don't know why students get blamed for these things all the time, but they do. Students might have created it with CGI, but it's at the time it was allegedly. Now it's proven to be visual evidence gathered by the U.S. Navy pilots from an aircraft carrier called USS Nimitz, and this was in 2006. And there's even audio. You can hear the pilots talking, and there's a couple of them, such as Alex Dietrich, David Fravor, and a couple of some people on the ship, and some of this crew on the ship, which saw these things on radar, and now speaking out. Now, why that policy changed so suddenly and so radically, I don't know. Whether it was, I know there's so many theories. People say it's intentional. Either this is the government basically do want to tell us the truth finally after all this time, which seems unlikely to me, but we never know. Or it's a piece of disinformation. It's manipulating us. It's manipulating public opinion and the cultural shifts in some way or another. And there's several other theories as well. I don't know what the answer is, but what I do know is something new is struggling to be born right now. For over the last 9 years, we've entered a whole new era in this relationship between ourselves and this UFO phenomenon. Absolutely. Now, we need to get into definitions. Sorry, I haven't actually sized these things properly, but I'll read them out to you. We're going to talk about something called exopolitics. Now, it's a word you don't hear very often nowadays, but it's a word I quite like. And it used to be, 10 or 15 years ago, it was quite common parlance within ufology. And some people think it's synonymous with ufology. It's just the same word. It's a different word for the same thing, but it's not quite the same, even though there's a big overlap between the two. And most people who are into one will also be into the other, will be interested in the other. But ufology, as it says here, is loosely defined as the study of reports, visual records, physical evidence, and other phenomena related to unidentified flying objects. UFOs have been subject to various investigations over the years by governments, independent groups, and scientists. The term derives from a UFO, which is pronounced as an acronym, UFO, and the suffix logi, which comes from the ancient Greek for study, as in all kinds of other ologies, astrology, all these other kinds of ologies. So that's ufology. It's basically the scientific study of UFOs. What are they? We need to study them. We need to find out, get information, evidence, etc. Exopolitics. Now, exopolitics is the study of key individuals, political institutions and processes associated with extraterrestrial life. Information concerning extraterrestrial life and technology is kept secret from the general public, elected political representatives, and even senior military officials. The supporting evidence is overwhelming, that decision-making is restricted on a need-to-know basis. Again, it's a Greek word, exo, meaning outside or external, and politics, of course, politismos, just the Greek word for politics, which English has borrowed. That's from Michael Salla. Michael Salla is an interesting chap, actually. He has something called exopolitics.org. So you could say exopolitics and exopoliticians, if you like, are ufologists who've made up their minds. The ufologists, the classic ufologists, and there's still a few of them today, believe it or not, are still going around asking themselves, are these things real or not? Or are they just weather balloons and swamp gas and things like that. There's still a few people. There's literally still a few people who are still literally trying to move forward by looking over their shoulder in that way. The exopoliticians have made up their mind and they're saying, well, they're real. We know what they are. What are they, and what are we going to do about it? And of course, there's a big crossover. As I said, there's a crossover between the two, but you have different individuals who focus on different elements of this these sort of twin fields of study. That there is a ufologist, but that is an exopolitician. That is a ufologist. That's an exopolitician. That is a ufologist. That's an exopolitician. I have no idea what that creature is. None whatsoever. None whatsoever. No. By the way, yeah, Nick Pope got married. Do you hear about that? Yeah. He married a lady called Elizabeth. A bit tricky though, because he was standing in front of the vicar, and the vicar was saying, "Nicholas, you take this woman, Elizabeth, to be your lawful wedded wife to love and cherish, till death do you part." And he said, "I can neither confirm nor deny that." So they had to postpone the wedding. But that day, now, as I've just explained to you, the United States of America is like is the organising force behind all this. Whenever, for example, a major ufological event happens in another country, and I was talking to these ladies at the front about this, and I've been talking to Dave and Sue about this. I myself, I'm like one of the principal researchers into one of these events. Very often Americans will get involved. Somewhere or another you'll get like Americans coming and poking their nose in. And to my knowledge, there is no nation state on earth that does not obey this policy, which is that when a decisive physical evidence appears, that this is then basically secretly, like I say, the practice is actually you put a big cordon around it, get lots of soldiers and policemen and other security officials to guard that particular cordon, and then you get rid of the evidence, take it away somewhere, and then you just tell everyone, oh, it was a balloon or a helicopter crashed or something like that. That is the modus operandi for the state and how it deals with this sort of thing. To my knowledge, there's no nation state on earth that does not do that. And very often when this happens, usually some Americans will get involved, and the decisive physical evidence will be shipped to the United States. And like I say, I'm not sure exactly why that is, why the US is actually in control, because you might add that well, the US was the major world power during the Cold War along with the Soviet Union. But even during the Cold War, the Soviet Union cooperated with the Americans on this issue. And indeed, even today, in this new multipolar world, the US still seems to be in charge when it comes to this particular phenomenon. But, and I should also add that ufology essentially began in the States as well. The modern UFO era was triggered by two American cases, that is the Kenneth Arnold sighting, and literally just 10 days later, the Roswell incident in July the 8th. 1947. Now, but the exopolitics has a different history. It's more recent, although, I mean, exopolitical ideas have existed in ufology ever since the very beginning. But the modern exopolitics movement is more recent, has a very different history, and it emerged in a very different country. Does that look lovely to you? Especially this time of year, isn't it? I just long to like walk down that beach and roll up my trouser legs and kick my shoes off and wade in that beautiful blue sea. That is the island of Grenada. It's in the Caribbean, and it's a very small little island nation, just 10 miles across, a population of about 20,000 people. But it's a place you may have been on holiday. Has anyone been there? Anyone been to Grenada? If you go on a cruise of the Caribbean, it'll usually stop off in Grenada. There's usually a cruise ship moored in the harbour here, and it's renowned, as is much of the Caribbean, for its nice weather, easygoing lifestyle, friendly, fun-loving people, good food, that kind of thing. So it's a great place to go on holiday. But there's nothing in this image, as delightful as this picture is, there's nothing in this image that reveals that this is one of the most important places on Earth when it comes to the history of exopolitics. The exopolitics was born in this country. Do you recognise this chap? Anyone? It's not Eddie Murphy. I know it looks a bit like him, it's not. This is Sir Eric Gairy. Now, he was the first Prime Minister of Grenada. He took He took power in February of 1974, just 1 month after the Berwyn Mountains UFO incident. That's not relevant, by the way. It's just the way I organise my calendar. I tend to link everything that happens to with the nearest major UFO event. That's just how I think. But yeah, 1 month later, he took power. He was the first elected Prime Minister of Grenada after the country won its independence. It was originally a British colony, and won its independence from the British Empire. It was one of the last of the British Empire to British overseas territories to become independent. It wasn't always a British territory, though. It was originally part of the French Empire, but we bought it from the French in 1835, and for £7 million. So you might think, well, I mean, look at that sunny beach. Look at that beautiful beach. It's worth it, wouldn't it? Worth it, definitely. But he was the first Prime Minister, and he was very, very interested in UFOs. I mean, I suppose the Caribbean tends to throw up these kinds of very eccentric characters. It's people like Bob Marley, you know, it's lots of sort of out-of-the-box, free-thinking people come from the Caribbean. It's just kind of, it's whatever it is, it tends to generate those kinds of characters. And this man is a typical part of that tradition, I would say. Now, this photograph is a very important historical document, and I've given you. You probably can't read this, but I'll read it for you anyway. These four men are sitting at the United Nations. On the far left, you see Sir Eric Gairy, and he was Prime Minister of Grenada, but he was also the ambassador to the United Nations, because in Grenada the two offices are combined into one. Sitting next to him is J. Allen Hynek, the famous leader of Project Blue Book. Originally a skeptic, he went in there to debunk everything, but he tried and couldn't, and he had a lot of experiences that essentially radicalized him. He ended up writing books, you know, castigating the US government for its closed-minded attitude and for the suppression that he recognized was going on. Sitting next to him, you may not recognize him, he's quite well known today, Jacques Vallée, a young brown-haired Jacques Vallée, he's just written a new book actually about nuclear weapons, along with Paola Harris, about the nuclear weapons program, and it's the fact that it's interfered with by UFOs. And at the end is Colonel Larry Coyne, another person who's very much involved with Project Blue Book and other research projects along those lines. Now, you can't read this. I'm not going to read it out to you. If you want to read this full text, it's actually on the it's on the Grenada government portal. You can also get it at the United Nations portal. But this is a document. This is actually a part of Sir Eric Gairy's speech that he delivered in October 1977 at the United Nations General Assembly. He did this speech, and it talks about the need to establish a United Nations body, along with UNICEF and UNESCO and all these others, specifically for the study of UFOs and our interaction with extraterrestrial intelligence. And it's a really important document. It's a really interesting document to read that. At that same time, as you can see here, October 1977, he ordered the Post Office of Grenada to release these postage stamps. This is a $2 Grenadian, and you can see there's Sir Eric's face on there, and you don't know if you can see the stamp properly there, but it's like a little, there it says at the bottom, research into UFOs. This card that came with it, this presentation card, you can see this is actually the United Nations building there, and you can see the flying saucer at the top left. Now, funnily enough, that flying saucer may have been based on a real UFO sighting that took place in New York City in May of 1973. Some of you may know about this. The witness was none other than John Lennon, the Beatle. He was literally standing on his balcony in Manhattan, in his apartment in Manhattan, and he saw this object flying over, and he did a little interview about it as well. And so that may well have been inspired on that moment. This is not the first time, incidentally, that the United Nations and UFOs have brushed shoulders. This guy on the left is Javier Perez de Cuellar, and he was actually Secretary General of the United Nations. Now, the person you see on the right, you see a lady called Linda Napolitano, and there's an image of her being abducted. This is called the Brooklyn Bridge abduction or the Manhattan abduction. There was recently a TV series on Netflix about this. Linda was living in this flat in Manhattan, and she was levitated out of her window in a beam of light on the 17th floor and taken up to this flying saucer, and she had some amazing experiences. She really, really did. And this has shaped her entire life. It's a very long, complicated story, but there's a good book written about this called Bud Hopkins, and it's called, I think it's called Taken. I can't remember the actual, I think it's called Taken. But anyway, she told her story. Now, what's interesting about this abduction is it may well have had independent witnesses. That's very rare for alien abductions to have independent witnesses. But this one did, and the witness reportedly is none other than 2 security guards from the UN and this chap, Javier Perez de Cuellar, the Secretary General. He was ex-Secretary General at the time, just stepped down from office, replaced by a guy called Kurt Waldheim. But he's never commented on this. But it's a fascinating story. Linda died about a month ago, sadly, which is a great shame. She was great. I got to know her actually. She was a great lady. But there's more. Now this is more well known, but again, this ties in with the United Nations. This took place, as you see here, in 1987, September the 21st of 1987. This guy here, President of the United States, Ronald Reagan, gave a speech to the United Nations General Assembly, the same way Sir Eric did the decade before. And he said some very interesting things, such as, I think how quickly our worldly differences would be put aside if we were faced by a threat from beyond this earth. It's an extraordinary thing for someone like him to say. And then he said, well, what could be, and he added very quickly, because people wondered where he was going with this, as I would, what's coming next. So then he added very quickly, what could be more alien to the aspirations of mankind than war and the threat of war. And this was in 1987 when the Cold War was kind of in its terminal thaw. And I don't know I think most of you are old enough to remember this. He was good mates with Mikhail Gorbachev. Do you remember the Soviet president? And they were always hanging out together. And but this was basically the end of the Cold War. And I just thought that was really an extraordinary thing for someone like him to say. Now, the implications of what he said, I'm going to say a little bit more later about exactly where what his words might actually mean and what the implications might mean, because it may be something slightly different, but we'll go into that later. Here we see Sir Eric Gairy shaking hands with Jimmy Carter, President of the United States. He went on a state visit to the US, and here he is in the Oval Office shaking hands with his opposite number in the US. I'd have liked to have been a fly on the wall there. I really would, because Jimmy Carter saw a UFO as well. Well, this is when he was a congressman from Georgia. And he was staying with Shirley MacLaine, the actress. She's still pretty active, actually, in that she's retired pretty much now, and she's an old lady, but she's still very, very into all this sort of thing. She's a member of the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance. But he reports a UFO, so you can imagine what these two were talking about. Now, this has to be one of the most astonishing government documents that have ever been published. And I'll read it to you. UN General Assembly Decision 33/426, 18th of December 1978. Establishment of an agency or department of the United Nations for undertaking, coordinating and disseminating the results of research into unidentified flying objects and related phenomena. At its 87th plenary meeting on the 18th of December 1978, the General Assembly, on the recommendation of the Special Political Committee, adapted the following text as representing the consensus of the members of the Assembly. The General Assembly has taken note of the statement made and draft resolutions submitted by Grenada. That was the speech that he gave the previous year, Eric. That the 32nd and 33rd sessions of the General Assembly regarding unidentified flying objects and related phenomena. The General Assembly invites interested member states to take appropriate steps to coordinate on a national level scientific research and investigation into extraterrestrial life, including unidentified flying objects, and to inform the Secretary General of the observations, research and evaluation of such activities. The General Assembly requests that the Secretary General to transmit the statements of the delegation of Grenada and the relevant documentation to the Committee on the Peaceful Uses of Outer Space, so that it may consider them at its session in 1979. The Committee on the Peaceful Uses of Outer Space will permit Grenada, upon its request, to present its views to the Committee at the session in 1979. The Committee's deliberation will be included in its report, which will be considered by the General Assembly of its 34th session. It's there in black and white, Squire. This is, you would never ever see anything like this today. I mean, there's been a few documents that have come out, you know, like the Schumer Amendment and things like that, but none of them come close to this. This was extraordinary. Sir Eric succeeded. I mean, if this had gone on, there would have been a declaration, and this body would have been established. But it all went wrong. It all went terribly, terribly wrong. This is Maurice Bishop. He was Sir Eric's principal political rival in Grenada. And in March of 1979, Eric received devastating news from home. Maurice Bishop had taken power in a coup d'etat. He and his party, the New Jewel movement, this is a Cuba-affiliated Marxist-Leninist group. JEWEL stands for Joint Endeavour for Workers' Liberation and Education. It's Workers' Education and Liberation. They'd been sneaking weapons onto the island in oil barrels, and they took advantage of Sir Eric. He was away in the UN again, having consultations with Waldheim, and they took advantage of his absence to take those weapons and march into the government buildings, the post office, the TV station, everywhere, and just announce they were taking over. And Maurice Bishop appointed himself Prime Minister, and Bernard Cord, his best friend, he appointed Deputy Prime Minister. Now, Sir Eric, well, he was exiled. What first thing Maurice Bishop did was he took Eric's family and put them into house arrest, so they couldn't leave their homes. Eric was exiled. He exiled the former Prime Minister from his homeland. And so this was an awful situation. So Sir Eric had to drop everything he was doing. Forget the UFO stuff. He had to sort out this problem in his own country, which took the best part of 5 years. And so the impetus of the Grenada initiative, unfortunately, was lost because of this. And not only that, but Eric was in danger because Maurice had urged that his own associates in the United States to kill Eric. So he gave him a death threat, and Eric had to go into hiding. He had to stay at safe houses and have bodyguards and things like that. Because there was a guy called Mario Salas who was a New Jewel movement member living in the US, and he promised to kill Eric. That was awful. It was an awful situation, and it got worse because what happened was that in I forgot what date it was now, but there was another coup d'etat where Bernard Cord, Maurice Bishop's best mate and Deputy Prime Minister, then took power in a coup d'etat against the New Jewel movement and installed himself as Prime Minister instead. So there was a second coup d'etat which ousted Maurice Bishop, and this time Cord, Maurice Bishop's best friend, didn't just exile him, he took him and all his associates, put them in a court, put them up against the wall and shot them. As the saying goes, who needs enemies? At this point, the US decided to intervene. So there was actually an armed invasion by the United States of Grenada. There was a firefight. Bernard Cord got killed. All the members of his cohort got killed. And this was luckily it was a short-lived and far less bloodshed than in other American interventions, such as Iraq and Afghanistan, etc. And the US then took control and installed the previous constitution. And then Sir Eric was finally allowed to come home. He was finally allowed to come home to his homeland. Now, I suppose the big question would be, I mean, if you were the person behind UFO secrecy and you looked at the Grenada Initiative, you might get worried. You might think to yourself, this secret is coming down. You might think, oh, God, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And then I suppose the theory then would emerge, well, was Maurice Bishop kind of put up to it? Did someone like say, Maurice, take power. We need you to take power so we can keep UFO secret. I suppose that question inevitably emerges. I doubt that, quite frankly. I think it's just what happened in Grenada, unfortunately, was the inevitable consequence of the Cold War and its politics being played out in miniature in that region, which happened in many other places, such as Cuba and many parts of South America, where the forces of Soviet socialism and Western democratic capitalism kind of locked horns in a kind of like sideshow of the rest of the Cold War. However, despite this has come to light on BBC Caribbean. This is very, very interesting, right? It says here, UK foiled Gary on UFOs. So maybe there is something to this after all. Maybe I was wrong, but no. This is what happened was they've discovered a telex. Now, I don't know, anyone know do you all know what a telex is? If I was with younger people, I'd have to explain it, you know. It's an email on like a shopping till receipt. But you guys are old enough to know what telexes are. There was a telex actually between the British diplomatic mission at the United Nations and the Foreign Office, which basically said, you got to stop this Gary character talking about UFOs. Now, they didn't say, we want you to stop it talking about him because it's a secret. We're all supposed to, no one's supposed to know about it because of Roswell and stuff like that. No, they just said, we fear for the reputation of the United Nations when it starts talking about such stupid and crazy things. And we don't want this august body, which is supposed to be serious, having to address this sort of nonsense. So you need to tell this Gary chap from Grenada to put a sock in it. Otherwise, we're going to be the laughing stock of the world. That's what it was, basically. That's all it was. And here was Sir Eric Gary addressing the United Nations on the 12th of December 1977. Now, after the US invasion and the original constitution was restored, he did return to his homeland. He ran for office a couple of times, but, you know, his allure had gone, and he never again achieved high political status, and he was never Prime Minister or in the government again. He retired and eventually died in 1997. In Georgetown, the main settlement on Grenada, there is a big memorial to him, a grave. So if you are ever on holiday in Grenada and you get off your cruise ship and you want to go and roll your trouser legs up and wade in the sea, have a coconut shell full of Malibu or anything else like that, you know, maybe take a few minutes to nip to the florist shop, buy a bunch of chrysanthemums and lay them on the grave of Sir Eric Gary, one of the earliest heroes in the realm of UFO disclosure. I'll skip that. But it doesn't end there. In 1988, this book was published. Now, this is Timothy Good. You heard of him? Yeah. He's very well known. He's one of the most prolific authors on the subject of UFOs. I think he's written like 50 books. I mean, they're all quite similar in format. They're kind of a list of cases, kind of things without really a beginning or end. So they're all quite similar. But this one had a bigger impact than all the others. And it's got a great title, first of all. Above Top Secret, the Worldwide UFO Cover-Up. It also published the Majestic 12 documents for the first time. And this book actually inspired a person I'm going to talk about in a little while to drop what they were doing and become involved in ufology. And many other people as well were inspired by this. So it went on. It all went on, and indeed, just 5 years later, this man emerged onto the scene. This fine figure of a gentleman suddenly stood up and decided that he was going to take the mantle of what was going on. He actually began 2 years later in 1990, but he became famous like in about 1992, when he founded the Disclosure Project. This is Dr. Stephen Greer. He's just a humble country doctor from North Carolina. Very modest man. Incredibly modest. You wouldn't believe how modest this man is. And so he founded this Disclosure Project. And in 2001, I remember this actually, he launched the Disclosure Project press conference at the National Press Club, Washington, D.C., May the 9th, 2001. It was in the big main ballroom, exactly the same place that James Fox just last week did his Virginia 30. Did any of you see that press conference? Yeah, it was interesting. And it's the very same room, exactly the same room. And here's the lad himself introducing it. This was basically a gathering of people who would tell their story about what they'd experienced. Very, very people who, not the kind of like people you'd expect, not like weirdos and tinfoil hatters. These are military men, pilots, air traffic controllers, intelligence officers, people like that. This is John Callaghan. John Callaghan was head of the Federal Aviation Administration's Air Safety Division. So this guy was he held the most important seat in the entire United States when it came to civil air safety. So this is the guy who was responsible for the safety of the airwaves, airliners and passengers and pilots. And he said a major threat to air safety at the moment is unidentified flying objects. He says air traffic controller picking them up, they're harassing aircraft. I mean, if you've seen the film Close Encounters of the Third Kind, I think one of the first scenes in the entire film is a scene in the air traffic control room, if you remember that. You know, do you want to report a UFO? Brilliant scene. He addressed large aircraft, jumbo jets, things like that, being literally having objects flying near them that are larger than the aircraft by a long way. And there's a guy called Todd Curtis who's kind of carrying on this. He's an air safety expert in today's world, who was carrying on this mission to try and make people aware of this sort of thing. This is Charles Brown. He was a World War II veteran and pilot, and he had to intercept a UFO once when he was flying. And this was after the war in the 1950s. But he was ordered to intercept this UFO, and in order to do so, he was directed to carry out some very, very dangerous maneuvers, which involved a very, very sharp descent from a high altitude to a low altitude, which he was worried. He said, if I get this wrong, his plane could just slam straight into the ground and he could kill him. But they said, no, you've got to catch this thing. So they ordered him to do that. This is Captain Bob Salas. You heard of this guy? He's very famous. Now, they say people who believe in UFOs are crazy. We're nuts. If this guy was nuts, we'd all be dead. Because this man was part of missile combat crew, which means he was in the nuclear bunker with his finger on the button, waiting for the order to come to launch America's strategic nuclear deterrent. Now, that means that his mental health was of the highest priority of all, because you cannot have people with a screw loose doing that kind of job. Because, like I said, if someone launches a missile unauthorized, the Soviets will launch back, and before you know it, the whole world's blown up. So he was very carefully monitored, very carefully screened. But he did encounter some strange objects, which eventually shut down his missiles. It's a very strange thing that happened, and he speaks quite openly about it. He still talks about it today. He's still active. I mean, his wife just died sadly, which is a shame. He still talks. He's in his 80s now. He still talks about it. This is Carl Wolf, NASA contractor, as is Donna Hare, this lady. Now, do any of you watch Ross Coulthart on News Nation? Yeah. Did you see the one that he's just uploaded? He's the one he's just posted this interview, an hour and 46 minutes with this chap talking about how footage and photographs from the moon from NASA are edited to remove certain things. Well, this lady, Carl Wolf and Donna Hare, were talking about this in 2001, how NASA were doing this, especially on the dark side of the moon, or the far side, to give it its proper name, because it actually just gets as much sunlight as anywhere else, but it's on the opposite side of the moon, so we can't see it. It's actually one of the few places in the universe which is totally invisible to the Earth's surface for a reason other than sheer distance, which makes it a perfect place to put an alien base. If you're an alien and you want to visit the Earth and study the Earth, that's where you need to go, because no one can see you, and it's just next door. But he said NASA were sending craft up there, and indeed they still are, and that they before they publish these things, they airbrush them and they alter them. Something with modern technology is far easier to do and make a believable fake, which was the point by this, I can't remember his name now, being interviewed by Ross Coulthart the other day on News Nation. Yeah, so that's absolutely fascinating. This is Larry Warren. Now, I consider this man, I know this guy actually, he's a friend of mine, but I'm not, leaving aside that bias, I consider him the most important single witness to the Rendlesham Forest incident in terms of what he saw and what he's been doing, the fact that he's been so vocal about it. And he stands here at this press conference, and he tells his story to the audience. This press conference was live streamed online, had 20,000 views. Now, the internet was not as sophisticated in those days as it is today, and although in those days 20,000 views made it the most popular and widely viewed live stream ever in internet history. George Filer. Now, this guy was a member of Project Blue Book. He had actually worked with Hynek, and the kind of things he talks about is really quite extraordinary, because he backs up Hynek and what he used to talk about. This is Carol Rosin. Now, she was one of the most interesting speakers of all, because she knew Werner von Braun. Werner von Braun was originally an SS scientist in Nazi Germany, who invented things such as the V2 and V1 rockets, which actually caused a huge amount of devastation and bloodshed in this country during the Blitz. After the war, his record was basically wiped clean, and he ended up in the United States work under Project Paperclip, along with many, many other Nazi scientists who were given new identities. So we didn't even know who they were. They were people who had done much worse things than von Braun. And they were just basically, again, their records were wiped clean, and they were given the option of, well, they probably just said, look, do this or you'll get hanged at Nuremberg, and so they agreed. But she said that in 1975, she met Werner von Braun, and he said all kinds of things, like he knew what was going to happen. He said, in 10 years, the Cold War will be over. Well, what happened? Gorbachev took power, and within 2 years of that, Reagan was doing his speech. And like I say, hang in 10 with Gorbachev, and they were all good mates again. You see, so how did he know? How did he know? But then he said something else. The Cold War will be over in 10 years. It will be replaced with a new threat, because there has to be a threat, there has to be danger, there has to be an enemy. Because if we didn't have those things, the government would lose power. I mean, they're quite open about this. I mean, in the Club of Rome and the report from Iron Mountain, they say, yeah. We can't leave people in peace. We can't give them an easy life. We have to convince them there's a danger, so that we have a role to play in their lives. And he said that there would be like terrorism after that. And of course, what happened? What happened after the Cold War? 9/11, terrorism, stuff like that. And then he said after that, the last card. If nothing else worked, they would say there are evil aliens out there and we need to weaponize space. We need weapons in space, which ostensibly are to protect us from missiles, out of Star Wars, for example, but really it's to control people and maybe attack the benevolent extraterrestrials. And she says, you must stop the weaponization of space. She said, Carol, you must stop the weaponization of space. She's one of the most interesting ones. So, yeah, the 9th of May 2001, again, just like with the Gary Initiative, there was a real momentum behind this. You felt it could go somewhere, but then on September the 11th, what happened? Now, I suppose the question would be, you want to ask the same question of 9/11 that you may be asked of the Bishop coup. Was it done to scupper the Disclosure Project initiative? Now, as I said, I don't believe that the Bishop coup had anything to do with that was just bad luck, the Bishop coup. I think there are many reasons why 9/11 was done, and this might be one of them. I think it's not just one reason. So it's possible that what Greer achieved with the Disclosure Project was an ingredient in the decision to carry out 9/11. But anyway, it was all forgotten. Everything was destroyed. All the initiatives, every single piece of progress that was made was ended, and essentially the world reset itself. As Tony Blair very infamously said, the kaleidoscope has been shaken, and before the pieces settle, we must reorder the world in our image. And he did, didn't he? He damn well did. Now, there's more to this to talk about. Now, this is still from a debate between Dr. Stephen Greer and Kerry Cassidy of Project Camelot. Now, this is two things I should say about this debate. You can get it on YouTube if you want to watch it. Firstly, it's very, very entertaining. If you like internet blood sports, then this is for you. I mean, this is the battle of the titans. This is the clash of the two biggest egos in ufology going head to head. This is the World Heavyweight Championship. This is between these two. Yeah, and it's very, very it's very amusing. It gets very heated, this debate. Now, the source was that Greer did this. They were in Spain. They were at this UFO conference in Spain, and Greer did this speech. And in this speech, he said, "Aliens are all benevolent. They're all good. They're all good. They're kind of angelic beings almost. The only bad guys on the block are the humans. And if you meet bad aliens, they're not really aliens. It's CIA agents in costumes and things like that." He literally said that. Now, Kerry Cassidy said, no, that's not true. Their aliens can be good or bad, and there's some bad ones as well. And Greer took great offence at this, like he takes great offence at almost everything. And they had this big set to. Now, if you look at the, once you get over the amusement of the whole thing, I realised very quickly that Kerry is completely right and Greer is completely wrong. There are aliens, extraterrestrial beings, wherever they come from, other dimensions and things like that. There are many, many different species. There's virtually a taxonomy of them now, greys of different sizes and reptilians and mantids. They exhibit a wide variety of behaviour, and they're capable of all kinds of different agendas, I say. They probably come from many different habitats. So there's a lot of variety out there. And there are some good ones and some bad ones. I'd say the vast majority of them appear to be observing us. They're kind of monitoring us in the way someone like David Attenborough might monitor the chimps in the jungle and things like that. It's kind of like that, I'd say. There's Greer boasting again, as he did. But Kerry doesn't look very impressed. I think she can see through it. But, Greer, to give him his credit, Greer he's been very, very uppity at the moment. He's becoming more and more bad-tempered and more grouchy. And I think that's because he wants disclosure to be all about him. And it's not anymore. There are other players in the game. There are other people on the field. There are other ideas coming forward. And I won't talk about those tonight because that's a long subject. I might touch on them. And indeed, at the end of this, you can ask me questions and make comments. And maybe we can discuss it then. But Greer, he wants it to be all about him. And it's not. He doesn't like that. But this, to be honest, he's a good filmmaker. His films he makes these quite good films. The budgets are usually a few thousand, but he tends to ask for several million every time. But this is this asymmetric disclosure. This is not his last one. It's the one before. The most recent one's called The Lost Century. And I'd say they're worth watching. You can get them for a few quid on Amazon, and they're worth watching, I'd say. This is Steve Bassett. Now, this is a man I actually hold in far higher esteem than I do Dr. Stephen Greer. One thing about Greer, like I said, he wants it to be all about him. It's me with Greer. And, when you hear him talking, when he does these little talks and lectures and interviews, I say interviews, he never lets the interviewer hardly get a word in edgeways. But he'll always say how he briefed the president, or he briefed the head of the CIA. And it's always in some luxury chateau in Brittany. Or it's on some posh, it's on a desert island off the coast of Australia, in some 5-star hotel or something like that. It's always look how important I am. I'm so important. I can go to these places. While Greer's doing that and boasting in that way, this guy was a lobbyist in Washington, D.C. He was homeless. He was living in the back of a car. He was using public toilets to wash and things like that. And he's still at it now. He's about 80. He turns 80 this year, and he's still at it, old Steve. He really is. He's an absolute workhorse. I know. I've interviewed this guy loads of times. I've met him a few times, and he's really, really cool. He's a great guy, really is. Now, in 2013, there was what's called the Citizens' Hearing on an ET Disclosure, and it was held in this room again. You may recognise this room. It is the Grand Ballroom at the Washington, D.C. Press Club. And again, this is the same one that James Fox used. And again, it's what they have. They had essentially a hearing, just a bit like the congressional hearings that are happening for real now. These were a bit more extreme, I would say. And they got these ex-Congress people to just come out of retirement and do what they normally did in this essentially a mock hearing. And here we have Greer and we have Stevens, Greer and Bassett there talking at the citizen hearing. This is Gary Heseltine and Peter Robbins. Gary Heseltine, former British Transport Police detective, turned his attention to UFOs at the end of when he left the police force. And Peter Robbins, next to him, co-authored the book Left to Eastgate with Larry Warren. I think one of the most important books, in fact, the most important book written about the Rendlesham Forest incident. Now, Peter's, in the last few years, Peter, I think, has taken a wrong turn, and he has he's gone down a route that I can't follow, and I think he's made a big mistake. But at the time, he was a great supporter and a great individual, and a great crusader for the truth. But every good activist needs its theorists. This is the guy I was telling you about who read Above Top Secret and it changed his life. This is Richard Dolan. Now, he was a student at Oxford, where I live. I never knew him. I was a kid at the time. But he was a student. He was shortlisted for a Rhodes Scholarship at Oxford, studying politics and history. He was doing his course. Now, at one point during this particular course, he did a module on UFOs. Just a couple of months out, just to study UFOs and how they relate to the bigger issues that he talked about, or what he was studying. However, those 2 months changed his life. He didn't expect to be, this was just, like I say, it was just something he was going to do for a couple of months and move on. But he realized he became absolutely galvanized by the whole thing, by the whole issue. And he just dropped everything else he was doing and decided to focus full time on UFOs, which he did. So I believe we have a saucer in the hangar. That's a quote from Nick Pope. Now, Nick Pope, he makes a joke out of the whole thing, really. He doesn't really take much, he doesn't really pay much attention to it. He's a bit of a cynic in that respect. But I think literally this actually exists. This is real. This is not a photograph. This is not a photograph of a real UFO. It's just an artist's impression. This here is not a real alien. This is a photo taken at the Roswell Museum in Roswell. Well, you see the alien lying on this little trolley here, this hospital trolley with these doctors, and there's the men in black, the CIA agent and stuff like that. Yeah, definitely. And I think these things are real. They're actually happening. But are we gonna find out? Are they going to tell us? Is this chap, Donald Trump, US president? Is he literally going to stand on a podium and say, I'm here to tell you today that UFOs are real. We are being interacted with by extraterrestrial beings. Or at least we will be when I sign an executive order saying it's so. I may well go and pick them up from Greenland. Are we going to see that? What about this person? What's his name? What's his name? I know we figure lots of names for this chap. I can't. What's his real name? I can't remember. Keir Starmer. Not the most memorable prime minister we've ever had, is he? Not the most charismatic. Is he really going to stand outside number 10 and tell us the truth? Hello, everybody. My name's Keir Starmer, and I'm the prime minister. And I'm going to talk to you about something interesting today. Aliens are real. I was going to tell you and I forgot and I didn't. I'm sorry. We'll make it up to you. We'll bring back school milk. It's unlikely. Although there's a guy who thinks that Trump is going to do disclosure on Disclosure Day. That's July the 8th. It's Steve Bassett. That's the day Roswell happened. There's a guy, he's actually a film director. He made a film called King of UFOs, which is really good. It's about the royal family and their connection to UFOs, and about how Prince Philip was into it, Lord Louis Mountbatten and people like that. But he said, oh, I got an insider in the US, and he's told me that Trump is going to stand on a podium and say aliens are real on the 8th of July this year. I'll believe it when I see it. I really will. Obviously, I'd like that to be true, but you never know. It's hard to say. But what would be the implications of us knowing that aliens are real and what the government might have discovered about it? Well, I've got an entire presentation on that, which is separate from this one, called Energy, Politics and UFOs. It's also the subject of my books here, which I'll be saying more about at the end. But it ties into the issue of energy. Now, we live in a world where there's environmental destruction, poverty, and there's essentially a millstone around all our necks because we are forced through government secrecy and government in position to use Stone Age fuel. You have a car, you're driving along in a car. Well, the car may look modern, it may have modern electronics in it, but its principal propulsion system is exactly the same in essence as the very first one William Morris drove out of his garage in Oxford, or Henry Ford first put out on the road. Hasn't changed, it hasn't advanced in any way. Funnily enough, the chap called Nikola Tesla wanted to build an electric car, and he worked closely with Ford. But his production line was shut down. Ford said, no, we're going to have petrol engines only. Because we can sell petrol, you see. But, you know, if we were to imagine if we discovered that there was an energy source that was free, didn't cost anything, limitless, never run out, it's clean, safe, and practical. And we learnt that from the study of extraterrestrial artifacts. Because let's face it, these aliens, whatever's propelling them, whatever's driving them, their power plants, their propulsion systems, it's not Texaco Unleaded 4-star, it's something far more sophisticated. And what if we worked it out? And I know that some people know Stanton Friedman didn't believe this, a lot of other people don't believe this, but it's not just aliens. Human inventors have come up with this as well. Like Nikola Tesla, I mentioned before, he's just one, there's many others. Funnily enough, they all seem to die very young and very mysteriously and suddenly, you know, for some reason. I don't know why, but they just do. Eugene Malov, he's beaten to death in his home by a burglar. Mark McCandless shot himself twice in the back of the head. There was Stanley Mayer, served poison food in a restaurant. I mean, the list goes on, you know. Free energy could take some of the poorest people on earth and lift them to a standard of living that they've never, ever enjoyed before. I mean, you've got to ask yourself, you know, why are some people poor and some people rich? Why are some countries better off than others? And it's got a lot to do with energy. It's got a lot to do with energy. It's got to do with the distribution of energy and things like, and the access to energy. With energy, with free energy, there doesn't need to be famines. You can actually have farmland that is irrigated by seawater. Now, you can't do that today because it costs money, because you need energy from fossil fuels or some other inefficient old-fashioned method to get the water from the sea to where you need it and to desalinate it, remove the salt so it's fresh and you can use it to irrigate the land. Which means this is why you get some famines from droughts and things like that. When the rain doesn't fall, there's no food, people die. Sometimes there's wars for oil as well. Isn't it strange have you noticed how war always starts in places where oil is found? The Falkland Islands, Darfur. I could give you more examples. When we stop using oil, there won't be any wars for oil. See, this is an artist's impression of like a futuristic society, but really, we could, you know, if Tesla had just been left alone to do and allowed to publish his work and his work to be developed, introduced, we could be living in this kind of world. And who would object to that? Who'd care? Honestly, yeah. You know, I mean, I don't believe that everyone who works for the oil company is actually engaged in some kind of conspiracy to suppress free energy for political, strategic purposes. But they are worried about their industry. Are you really going to knock on the door of the chairman of Royal Dutch Shell or one of these others? You walk into his office, he's got a desk the size of a tennis court, and you stand in front of him and say, sorry to interrupt, I've just come to tell you your services are no longer required. But it's not over for you, you understand. You need oil for other things. Candles, you need oil to make candles. How about Shell candles? Yeah. They make them pretty colours and they smell nice and they won't stain your wallpaper. There's got to be a big dollar on Shell candles, isn't there? What do you think they're going to say? Shut up, get out of here, shut them up. And they will use methods to shut these people up, including the ones I've just mentioned about the suspicious deaths of the various people. And the list of people I've just given you. But there's more to it than that. Now, in 1959, a document was published by the Brookings Institute. This is an American think tank, right at the dawn of the space age, just after Sputnik. This is when we just literally started launching orbital rockets, basically. And it said, when we go out and explore the universe, and the title of the document was The Peaceful Uses of Space, which is a kind of rather sinister Orwellian phrase, I think. But it said, should you come across signs of intelligent life, even past intelligent life on another planet that died long ago, it may not be a good idea to shout it from the rooftops, because human society would be changed in various ways. And then the document starts becoming very oblique, and it doesn't really specifically recommend a cover-up, but it does hint at that. And so, well, what's this? This is the face on Mars. You remember this? Now, according to the skeptics, this is just a strangely shaped hill that happens to look like a face. Through pareidolia, we see a face in the same way we see faces in clouds and wood knots and on planks and things like that. It's not really a sculpture. It's not made by intelligence, but of course it is. And indeed, there are other objects around the face which are even more obviously made by intelligence. So this is another example of suppression. Now, there's nothing related to energy or anything like that here. But for some reason, the deep state, the powers that shouldn't be, whatever you want to call them, the Illuminati, for whatever reason, it's very important to them that we do believe we are alone in the universe, that we are literally just this little oasis of life in this infinite cosmic desert. And there's nothing out there apart from us. And for whatever reason, it may be psychopolitical, it may be a cultural, a very, very long-term, very ingrained need for a cultural model. But it's something, like I said, that's been going on literally until 2017. Oh, sorry, I should have warned you, and this is going to be disturbing. I normally tell people to look away if they don't want to see this, but this cattle here has experienced a mutilation. Now, this is a phenomenon. It's been around perennially. It's been around for a very, very long time. But Linda Moulton Howe is the first person in the late 70s to investigate this properly. But animals are turning up dead with these kinds of injuries. And you might have seen Silent Killers by Richard D. Hall on Rich Planet. Any of you seen that? It's The Strange Harvest. There's several. There are several documentaries and books written about this. These animals have no blood in them. They have the injuries are surgical. It's like it's like an autopsy. So predators don't do this. You know, foxes and coyotes and things don't do this. But animals like this are turning up all the time with these injuries, and it seems to affect all species: farm animals, wild animals, even aquatic mammals, fish, birds. They turn up with these injuries, and it's happening across the world. And this is going to disturb some of you if you've not heard it before. But sometimes human bodies turn up with these injuries. It could be that the aliens, even Linda Moulton Howe doesn't like to talk about this, she finds it uncomfortable, but we sometimes just think that we're special. We often use the phrase humans and animals, as if we're sort of like something separate. We're above them, we're better than them, and we are indeed very intelligent, etc., etc. But it's possible an extraterrestrial presence may not. They may not actually think of us in those terms. We don't know that whatever is doing this does actually regard us as anything special. They may just see us as another species that they can do these things to. So this again is an argument against what Dr. Stephen Greer was talking about. The aliens are not all benevolent. They do bad things. They do this to animals. They do this to people, and that's something we have to deal with. And the government know this, and they don't want to say it. And they'll say things like, well, people will panic. I mean, it's actually really quite distressing that the government have such a low opinion of everyone, don't they? They really, well, you could say, well, you're not panicking. I know we're special. We're better than them. That's kind of their attitude. That's the implication. So anyway, let's look at, do you want me to show you something a little bit less disturbing, a little bit more friendly, shall we? There you go. This is not a photograph. The last one was. This is not a photograph. You'd be glad to know. But this is kind of this is a typical abduction. It very often involves a medical examination by these various creatures of all kinds of. They do all kinds of strange things along those lines, as if they are studying us like a biological specimen. That's kind of what it's like. Again, this has been going on for a long time. It's been going on and it's not all the CIA. Greer is wrong about that. Kerry is absolutely right. It's not the CIA. Real extraterrestrials are doing this to us. They're taking us without our consent, and they are doing these experiments on us. Now, I know there's millions of people who are affected by this. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if people in this room have had this experience. If you go to a conference, I mean, if you have an interest in this subject, the chances are, you know, a lot of people, you go to a conference and they'll put their hands up and say, this happens to me. And the government know this is going on. There's nothing they can do to stop it. I mean, you hear there's some silly ideas about, I think there's silly ideas saying, well, the government have done a deal with the aliens, so they give us the secret technology, and then we allow them to abduct our citizens. Well, you know, the aliens don't need our permission. They don't need our permission to do this. They'll do it anyway. They've been doing it since prehistoric times. You know, and they do these, so, I mean, sometimes they don't bring people back. If you know David Paulides, the missing 411, you've heard of that? Sometimes they don't always bring people back, yeah. And so this is a challenge we're going to have to face. I mean, I should point out, before you all have nightmares, this is very rare. But you're people who experience serious injury, it's very, very rare. However, there's more to this. This is the Right Honourable Sir Paul Hellyer, former Minister of National Defence of Canada, and he is holding up Dr. Judy Wood's book, Where Did the Towers Go? About 9/11. This is another issue. This energy, this power, which may come from the extraterrestrials, but might also come from human inventors. In this case, a guy called John Hutchison, who was trying to reproduce or recreate the inventions of Nikola Tesla, has been taken by it's been appropriated by government organisations. In this case, DARPA. A guy called Colonel John Alexander supervised Hutchison in his laboratory in 1982, and turned into a weapon. And Dr. Judy Wood has provided very, very, very important evidence, irrefutable evidence that this weapon was used to destroy the World Trade Center on 9/11. Funnily enough, this guy died a couple of years ago, Hellyer. Now, he was like 97, and there was lots of obituaries to him. I wrote one myself on the Hapanoi blog, and you'd think like this guy it would be news in Canada that this guy died, because he's one of the most senior statesmen in the entire country. He's the longest sitting member of the King's Council, which is the highest office in the Canadian government, and Minister of National Defence, like I said. You'd think that like the Canadian newspapers would have like said a few words. Not a word, not a peep. Not a peep. There's no official obituary to this man anywhere in the Canadian media outside the ufological media. Very strange, that. Very strange indeed. So how do you feel about this? I mean, how are we meant to react when we learn what our government has done to us? I feel like doing this. I feel like grabbing torches and pitchforks. That's what it feels like. That's what is a natural reaction. A natural reaction is hatred and anger and rage that we've been treated with such contempt, and so much damage and suffering and death has happened as a result of secrecy. And for the idea that there may be some kind of disclosure, some kind of willing disclosure, it's not just the secrets they've kept, it's the fact they kept the secrets in the first place. They're going to have to admit that they did it. When if you see Trump or Starmer on a podium telling us the truth, and what questions are people going to ask? Why did you do this? Why did you keep this from us? Why did you keep it from us for so long? Why didn't you tell us earlier? Why didn't you? With everything else that's going on in the world, you knew what good could have been done if we only knew the truth, and you kept it from us. Not for our benefit, but for yours. There's no spin doctor that could dig them out of that hole. No one. And so, in these secret boardrooms, which are probably happening right now as we speak, these points will be made. People will be talking about this. Steve Bassett has spoken a lot about this. They're going to be discussing how on earth do we tell people? How do we do it? Can we tell people? What would happen to us? What will they do to us when they find out the truth? And so they're trying to find, I think there seems to be a faction, as Richard Dolan says, there seems to be a faction that does want to come clean somewhere within the state. They just say, look, not because they have some great feelings of philanthropy and compassion towards us. No. It's for them, they're thinking strategically. They're thinking, what if one of these things lands in the middle of Hyde Park? stuff, something like that. What if something happens which takes this out of our hands? Catastrophic disclosure, as it's often called. What if someone on the inside goes public? Things like with and actually publishes, like, brings the dead body out into the middle of the room. That sort of thing. And so thinking maybe we should have a controlled disclosure which we can manage before such a terrible an event like this happens, which we can't manage. And all these points that I brought up today will be on the discussion table in these secret boardrooms, I'll tell you. And you have, like, this is Hillary Clinton here, who seems to be sort of semi-retired now, which is a good thing. But you get now, I won't go into this in detail, but you have, like, congressional hearings now in the US. Sadly, this hasn't happened in our own country yet. We haven't caught up yet, even though originally the House of Lords was discussing this, thanks to Lord Hill Norton, who's I don't know if you remember him. He's a friend of Timothy Good, so he features a lot in Above Top Secret. But he was the guy who was saying, he was saying we need to have discussions on UFOs. He was almost Gary, he was a Gary-like character that we had in our government. Sadly, passed away now. But since then, there's been no one really who's taken up that mantle. The UK is silent and has its eyes shut on this matter. But the United States is moving forward very, very quickly to some kind of, like I said, new paradigm. And here we go here. Hillary Clinton may declassify government UFO secrets. I don't know if that was meant to persuade people to vote for her. It didn't work anyway. And I don't think she would have done. That's a picture of Area 51. Now we come on to another issue here, which we really need to be concerned about. In 2011, I went to the Leeds Exopolitics Expo, and Bryce Zabel was there. He co-authored a book called AD After Disclosure with Richard Dolan. Anyone read it? It's a good book. It's a good book. And he said something very interesting. When the government tells us the truth about UFOs, it may turn out that they're bad aliens and they want to destroy us. Actually, they've been waging a war against us all this time, and that's why the government didn't tell us, because they're evil aliens. They want to destroy us, and so that's, you could say, well, that's a reason for keep doing this in secret behind the people's backs. And if that's the case, then we may just have to forgive the government and say, all right, we understand why you kept it secret. We understand. Now, please save us from these evil aliens, will you? Please. We'll give up our civil rights and we'll increase our taxes. Anything you want, just save us from these evil aliens. This brings us back to Carl Rosin, doesn't it? The Last Card. This is a film from 1956 called Earth versus Flying Saucers. It's quite twee and like special effects are what you'd expect from the era. It's actually a really good film. It was made with the help of people like J. Allen Hynek. I don't know if he personally was involved, but members of Project Blue Book actually assisted with this production, and it's actually pretty accurate, the way these craft behave and stuff like that. It's about an alien invasion. The aliens fly down, they're trying to take over the Earth, we have to fight back. This was kind of echoed in, it's kind of similar plot to War of the Worlds, H.G. Wells' book from 1898 about alien invasion. And indeed, I'm nearly done. And indeed, H.G. Wells actually was a one-worlder. He was a globalist. He had a vision of a new world order. But what's interesting is that there was this film as well, Independence Day. Have you seen this? 1996. This eventually has the same plot as the Earth versus Flying Saucers. Not as good, though. Now, this is an appalling film. It's really bad. It's dire. It's worth watching, though, because it kind of... It's a very sort of brutal, monolithic, kind of like very simplistic vision of evil aliens, terror, horror, government, please save us. Let's unite as one world and have an international state of emergency to save the planet. Temporary, of course. And when we've got rid of these aliens, the power we have taken from the people, we will return to the people. We promise. But of course, this is what we've got to be aware of. I think, and indeed this is a subject, this comes up in my book, Roswell Rising and Roswell Revealed, these two, that first disclosure may well be fake disclosure. As I said to Bryce Zabel, I asked him when he said this, I said, Bryce, is it possible the government will tell us the aliens are bad just so we'll forgive us and so they can dig themselves out of this rather nasty public relations quandary? And he said, yeah, they may well. And that's what we've got to be on our guard against. But anyway, I think I'm going to take a break now, Dave, and I'll take your questions and comments. But thank you very much for listening to me, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
There are 3 books, I believe you've written 5, haven't you?
Yeah, there's 3 here.
There's only 6 copies left, so if anybody wants one of the Getting Quick. There are books over there also if you want to help yourself, they're free. If you want to leave a little donation. And Greg's just going to make an announcement about the club that he goes to in London. So, Greg, if you'd like to explain.
Right, if I could have your attention for a moment, just a couple of minutes. London and Thameside Dowsers, we meet at Mile End. There's only like 5 meetings left, and there's 6 meetings at Richmond. Now, I appreciate if you all come from all over Essex and Suffolk and Norfolk and what have you, but the Mile End meeting is on the district line, and you can get to the district line from Upminster. So if any of you are interested in dowsing and related subjects, 5 meetings left, and we've got the other group at Richmond, and their venue is literally across the road from Richmond Main Line Station. You can't get lost. And it will be open to people like all of us because of the general interest, because it covers a lot more than just dowsing. And we get some absolutely class speakers like we've got.
Do you get chocolate biscuits?
That can be arranged, yeah.
Is that a deal clincher for you?
Deal.
So if anyone's interested, I know a lot of you have got phones, just take a picture of the schedule. Yes, yeah, I'll send it to Dave.
Yeah.
And as an offshoot of that, because we've had a lot of interest, I've done a field dowsing workshop day before, and then we've done the workshop about map dowsing for working in the energies of the landscape. And I've run those workshops 2 or 3 times in the last decade. They've been pretty successful because they're made by the people that attend. It's got nothing to do with me, it's the people that come. So if you're interested in any of that, see me at the end,
Yeah.
because I've got the email list there.
Can I
Okay?
also say that if you want to really keep up to date with what goes on, we have a WhatsApp page. There's some paper and a pen up there, so if you wanted to scribble your phone number on it, and then we can get you on WhatsApp, because a lot of people now are getting fed up with Facebook, and I am, and that will keep you bang up to date.
That's it.
Thank you for that then, Greg.
you very much.
We do have one of the best dowsers in the country in the room at the moment, sitting right there. He's a very modest man.
He is very modest.
Well, he managed to find his way here tonight, so be fair. You know. Brilliant. Anyway, questions and answers.
Yeah,
on the
anyone
way,
any
so
questions?
I'll leave you in the hands of Ben Emlyn-Jones. Ben, thank you.
Thank you, Ben.
Thanks very much.
You talked about humans that had turned up, like they'd been experimented on.
Yes.
And whereabouts in the country? Is there specific areas?
Well, one very famous example took place in the Brecon Beacons in South Wales in the 80s.
Okay.
There's the Dolby Forest incident as well in Yorkshire. The worst cases are, I mean, Brazil seems to get the worst of them. Brazil always gets the nasty ones for some reason. You know, there's been many cases in Brazil, but in this country there's been a few, yeah,
Really?
where human bodies have turned up with injuries like that. Yeah.
So it's mainly Wales and...
Well, there's Dolby Forest, Yorkshire, Wales. There's a couple of other cases. I mean, I don't want to give you guys nightmares. It's incredibly rare that humans are subjected to this kind of treatment.
Yeah.
But it does happen, yeah, it does.
Okay.
It does. Sir,
Thank you.
okay.
Does this sort of treatment in abductions, is it regional? And what I mean by that, you spoke about Brazil being quite bizarre, some of the stuff that's reported and done, and I'm sort of into the sort of like the paranormal, not so much the mythology, but South American sort of paranormal reports are generally quite bizarre to what they are to the Northern European ghost or stuff like that. And is there any sort of correlation between, that you say you notice perhaps, they're a bit different here from what they are here?
It's a bit tricky to judge because you see there's a difference. What do people actually experience based on what's actually reported and published? So we know what's reported and published, and there does seem to be different correlations, maybe based on culture. I mentioned that Brazil seems to get more than its fair share of the most unpleasant cases of all kinds. You know about the Colares incident.
No.
Oh, I won't go into the details now, but it was in 1977. There was a mass sighting which involved people coming up with injuries, and blood was taken and things like that. So it's a long story, but and there's the Virginia incident, which did result in at least one death.
Yeah, because I was just wondering whether sort of like Northern European sort of like cases, perhaps they're a bit more benign to what like South American cases might.
From what I've gathered, it seems to be universal. If you look into it in detail, you'll find all kinds of experiences all over the world. What you will find is that when it comes to popularization, certain tropes are more present in one culture than another. Yeah. That's what I found. However, as I said, the nasty cases in Brazil you'll find in Canada, you'll find them in Nigeria, Nottingham, everywhere. And I think that's the actual answer from what I can tell from what I've studied. But it's hard to know because so much doesn't get reported and so much doesn't get published. So,
could it be that there are different breeds of aliens taking them and they will do different things to different people?
Yeah, people who have contact report so many different species. These species exhibit a very wide variety of behaviours. They seem to have many different agendas. So yeah, there's not one alien. There are many different kinds. It must come from many different origins.
Could that be that some of them are, shall we say, friendly, and some of them have quite malicious intent, depending on the type, the breed of alien?
Or is it like people, where, we're all people, but some people are like murdering psychopaths and will do terrible things?
Yes, indeed. Yeah, so some people see the same species behave in different ways. So some will report a grey being nasty, another person will report a grey being very benevolent. So yeah, it's but all kinds of things. People experience all kinds of different kinds of contact. The most common just seems to be detached neutral observance. Yeah. They're just interested in us. They want to study us. They may do experiments on us, but the vast majority of these, as alarming as they are and terrifying, they don't do any permanent harm. The majority. Okay.
Do any of the abductees describe the aliens, like say what they look like, say if they're a reptilian or they're a Nordic looking, or
they report physical beings that essentially have a body and a face and a voice. Sometimes they don't speak, but they can speak in your head with telepathy. But they do report essentially beings that are as physical as we are. Yeah, definitely. Sir,
what do you make of the new Steven Spielberg film that's coming out this year? Have you seen the trailer?
Oh God, yeah. I mean, I think I'm going to be disappointed. I think everyone's going to be disappointed with this film, and the reason is not because it's going to be a bad film, but because we got such high expectations of it, and it won't live up to those expectations. But if I'm going to try not to think that way when I see it, because I'm really looking forward to it, because it's pretty clear that Spielberg lost his interest in UFOs. We know this because in 1997 there's a 20th anniversary edition DVD of Close Encounters, where he said he couldn't make that film today because he's lost his interest in UFOs. But something has rekindled that interest, and I'm very much looking forward to this. Yes, sir. Sorry.
Have you been watching Skinwalker?
You know what? No, I haven't. I watched the first season.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really interesting. And Skinwalker. There's that book by George Knapp, Con Kelleher about I read that book. There's something weird going on there. So it's a bit.
The latest series is fascinating.
It's what? Sorry.
The latest series.
I'll have to watch the new one. Yeah, I'll have to watch the new one. But it's very like
But they've got cattle mutilations there as well.
Yeah, there was a lady talking to me about Bridlington and that area, and Paul Sinclair and Chris Turner and other people have been investigating that area, and it seems to be very similar. There's a very similar phenomenon in this area on the coastline just north of Hull in Yorkshire's East Riding. It seems to be one of these portal areas. Definitely. Sir?
Have you seen Jeremy Corbell's film, the new film about Bob Lazar?
Yes.
What did you think of that?
It didn't really, it seemed to be more kind of, it was more a kind of personality profile than anything else, which I thought was a bit, it's not bad. It's not information I didn't really want to see. I thought his mum's testimony was very interesting. Is when his mother speaks out, because it's quite convincing, And,
Matt's work originally with him.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I don't know about Bob Lazar because there's lots of contradictory information about him, so I'm still thinking about that. Sir,
I was going to ask you, what's your story? What got you into this subject, and have you been interested in all your life, or have you had an experience?
It's a good question, because I must have had some interest my whole life, because I remember watching like Arthur C. Clarke's Mysterious World on TV when I was a kid. I was talking to Steve about this. I got the Osborne Book of UFOs, and I remember reading it a lot. I think it was in the 90s I really got into it seriously, like I am today. And I didn't start writing like the Hapanro blog until 2006. That was when the school tried to fingerprint my daughter, and that was kind of like a pivotal moment in my life. And I thought, oh my God, it's real. I didn't quite believe it until that moment, but yeah.
So you had an experience yourself?
It's a long story, but I've got an implant in my arm. Well, I did last time I checked. I'm still not sure what to make of that. But I've got no memory of how that could have happened. You know.
Have you had it X-rayed?
No, I mean, to get it X-rayed, I'd have to go to my GP and say, aliens put a thing in my arm.
Or you can say there's a strange lump there. Can I have an X-ray?
I've got a mark on my. See, he'd refer me, but he'd refer me to the psychiatric clinic.
Yeah.
You'd have to go private. I mean, there's several guys like Daryl Sims, Roger Lear, now gone away, now departed. There's several other people who do this sort of work, but you know,
Do you think it's like a metal type of implant? Like, would it go off at like airports or things like that? Or
It came up
something that.
It came up negative on the metal detection. It does have a radio frequency pulse and an electromagnetic field. That's all I know about it. I'm still sort of thinking about what to do about it.
Yeah.
I'm a bit nervous, to be honest. Because
You've got to have that scan.
I could have some kind of scan.
And then they could pinpoint exactly. So whether you need an operation to remove it.
Well, there's a friend of mine. There's a friend of mine I'm working with on this. To what course of action to take. As far as removal goes, it's something I'm hesitant to do. Firstly, because it's very expensive. Secondly, a friend of mine had an implant removed from her nose. She had one inserted into her nose, and she went all the way to Egypt to have a private operation. Cost her £3,000. They took it out, put it in a test tube. She took it home. She sent it off actually to Roger Lear for analysis. But then, about 2 weeks later, she was abducted, and when she came back from the abduction, something had put one back. They'd replaced it with a new one, as if to say, no, you got to have one of those in there. And so she realised if she got it removed, and then whatever put it there in the first place, they replaced it with a new one. And that might happen to me.
Like branding cattle.
The purpose of the implant is it's hard to know, because people study them and there appears to be no like electronic structure within them. They're some kind of metal alloy. They often have some kind of strange coating that stops them reacting with your immune system. So if you get a splinter in you, it'll swell up because your immune system will reject it. But these don't. And sometimes like blood vessels and nerves grow around it, which is very strange. But yes, it's a really important thing. Yes.
So do you think, because I think perhaps the medical profession maybe are told to ignore it, because I've got one in my jaw that the dentist told me about. And when me and my mum raised it as a query, like, well, should we be worried about whatever this strange object is that's now in my jaw? He just, poo-pooed it, just brushed it away. And I'm like, well, now what do I do? Do I just live with that then in my jaw?
It's tricky. I mean, it's in terms of people like your dentist. It's unlikely this person was literally had guys in sunglasses knocking on his door saying, "You keep quiet about that." It's probably more like he's simply grown up in a world and indeed been educated in a system which has a tacit cultural rejection and a mass psychological rejection of these phenomena. And this is why he doesn't want to think about it and talk about it. I know lots of people like that. There's not necessarily any force involved. It's like a herding, it's like a pack instinct that people do. It's a very difficult thing to overcome. And I wish you luck with that, I really do. It's difficult to know what to do when you have these things. I'm kind of scared about what I might find out about it. You see what I mean?
I went on an alien hunt organised by David and Seppi, and they were asking us to channel in to aliens, and I did see some things moving around. And I've got to say, the question that I want to ask you is, how do you tell if you can pick up on whether it's an entity or an alien? How do you tell whether that's good or bad, whether it's a bad thing for you, a good thing for you. Is there anything out there which says, well, if this alien or this energy does this, it's really, you want to be running, and if it does this, then it might be quite healing? Because is there anything?
It's not my field of expertise, to be honest. But
well, I just wondered, because I know in shamanism, which I do a lot of, if an animal bares its teeth at you, then you don't get into any energetic correspondence rapport with it, because it's considered dangerous. So I just wondered if there's anything like that with the aliens.
As far as I know, I think Dr. Carla Turner, someone was talking to someone else about this, and said that they actually do lie, they deceive, and they put forward false stories. It seems to be a form of manipulation, and they will sometimes act in ways which we know are not true. I mean, it goes back to George Adamski, who met beings from Venus, which no one knew anything about the planet Venus in the early 1950s. Since then, we've learned it's not hospitable to any kind of life as we know it. So it's as if they seem to be playing with us. I think they're gaslighting us a bit. But I mean, I suppose I take them at face value the way I take people.
Yeah.
If people are unpleasant, I can work out pretty quickly what their motives are, and I avoid people who are like unpleasant. We've got to finish at 22. But does anyone else want to say anything? Hello.
Many people think that we're in a hologram. Do you think that?
It's interesting because there's a lot of evidence for the simulation theory, and it's not a new idea. In fact, it's a very old idea, and we use like electronic analogies today with like hologram and things like that, and we use a lot of computing metaphors. These are just kind of metaphors for something, and in the past, before computers were invented, people used a different metaphor. Most famously, Plato, more than 2,000 years ago, said the universe is shadows on the wall of a cave. The idea that somehow this universe is there's the Hindu word samsara, illusion, is like I say, it's a perennial idea which people have always believed in at some point, and it's always been like a splinter in our mind, to quote Morpheus from The Matrix. This is why The Matrix is a very interesting movie, and in fact, the teachings of the Buddha and the experience of the Buddha, the path to enlightenment is to find a way out of that illusion. And I can't believe there's just nothing to it. I can't believe everyone just sort of made this up, and it's just some kind of like weird fantasy that we've all shared since time immemorial. There must be some reality behind it, yeah. And I mean, sir.
If you're pushed, what do you think we're dealing with? Are we dealing with nuts and bolts type craft and biological, as we understand, entities, or is this something you feel maybe more interdimensional?
See, this is the nuts and bolts versus the kind of high stranger thing, For some reason, Okay, guys, the talk's over. I think I might have actually missed some of the end, because the thing is, like, I was supposed to plug it in. I plugged the computer in here, but I didn't realise I had this thing here. See, this damn switch. Silly me. I left it switched off, so it was on the battery and it wasn't charging. And it just said, "Oh, your battery's low." And I thought, "Oh dear." I think I got most of it though, so I might have missed the last few minutes. But anyway, I'm really, really tired. But this audience has been fantastic. It's been like, there was easily 40 people here, 40, maybe even 50 people here. And as you heard, they asked some really good questions. And they were really, really good. I sold 4 books. But I'm now absolutely knackered. Hey guys, I'm at Wetherspoons in the pub, in the pub hotel. A bit like the one I stayed in Salisbury, if you remember that. I'll do the full room tour tomorrow. I'm just a bit knackered right now, so this is probably going to be my last segment of the evening. I shall see you in the morning. Night night. Oh, welcome everyone. Welcome to the Wetherspoons. It's actually called the First Post. Here we are. The last post. Sorry, the first post. As you know, if you follow my Syntheos videos, is the pub in the film The World's End. I've got these perching spikes there, so like the pigeons can't land. And yeah, it's just a nice little view out the window. Didn't show you much except the buildings opposite, but I'll show you the room. The room is actually it's a very nice one. Like I said, these Wetherspoons hotels, they're a bit of a notch up from
you show your Travelodge Premier Inn thing. Very high ceiling there, you see. This is quite an old building, that's why. But you get the air conditioning, which I haven't used. Don't really need this time of year. And here is this picture here. All colours by Jessica Jenkinson. Year 3. Vision of Southend. Seagulls, fish. Oh, that's lovely. That's a charming little kid's picture there. Isn't that nice? That's a lovely there. And this is the bed. The bed's very comfortable, actually. Ah, here's me. This is where I am, so I can run out if there's a fire. And you've got to put your key card in there to get the electric. I don't know why they do that. Of course, here's your table. Very generous with the tea and coffee. Typical spoons. You can get a bottle of water as well. But you don't have to pay. It's not like in that hotel in Indian Wells where I was at the Contact in the Desert, where you have to pay $3 for a bottle of water. And it's all free. All free. And you can get a menu for drinks and food there. TV, there's a TV of course, but I turned the TV on when I got in last night and there was nothing on. So, as usual, I went to bed. Right, now it's time for the toilet room tour. Here we are, it tells you there. Please shut the bathroom door and turn on the extractor when using hot water. Steam can set off the fire alarm. We don't want that, no, we don't want a steam alarm. Anyways, the toilet. Loads of towels. It's quite really grand here actually. You've got a towel heater, and there is your sticker so you don't get sued. Here's your shower. I don't know if that's a psycho shower. It's a kind of like overhead sort of umbrella shower thing. Give you soap as well. You don't get that in Travelodge. And you get a shaving mirror as well. Look, it's nice. Yeah. So very, very comfortable here. It's got these. You've got these things here you can sit up. You've got these paddings so you can sit up in bed. And there's an old penny black stamp there. Lots and lots of them. Probably about 1,000 pennies, £10 worth on the wall. So that's the Wetherspoons. That's the first post in Southend. Wetherspoons official a Panmo TV room tour. Slight update on the situation I was a bit concerned about yesterday, I should point out. As you know, I was a bit worried that David Young might turn up. He lives in the area, he's active in the sort of paranormal UFO world, and I was worried he might actually be there. I was determined, as soon as I was invited to this particular event by the organisers, I said, I didn't actually mention my feud with David Young. I didn't say anything about it to them. As far as I'm concerned, I keep personal and the professional separate. This is something Alison Dunlop has not yet learned to do, and she needs to. If I have a personal feud with somebody, I don't let it flow out into groups, into organisations, and I don't use these organisations in any way to settle personal scores. So I never mentioned David Young, and I thought to myself, well, if he turns up, I'm just going to just be polite, be professional, just do my thing. That's all I'll do. If you ask me a question, I'll answer it, stuff like that. But then after that, I never have to see the bastard again, which is a relief. I mean, the exception would be if they wanted, if for example they arranged for me to stay with him overnight, I would just put my foot down at that point. I said, I can't stay with that guy. I can't stay with him. I just can't. The guy's a scumbag. I can't stay with him. But they didn't, and then I found out that apparently he's not involved in this group. Without going into any details, his relationship with this group has broken down. As his relationships, you see, David's relationships with most people and groups break down at some point. One of the things the late Derek Savory did, I remember, kicked him out of the Rich Planet group on Facebook because he was a cunt. And so he's only got himself to blame for that. And Derek wrote to me and told me, and I said, well, Derek, you'll guess I definitely think you've done the right thing. Not that it bothers me. I blocked him about 5 years ago. In fact, I said to him, I blocked all the members of Sasha's little cult. And so, no, it didn't bother me at all. But I did congratulate Derek on having done the right thing. Because he said David was using the Rich Planet group just to post loads and loads of shit about Larry Warren. Larry Warren this, Larry Warren that, It was his little obsession which is why he turned against me. So yeah, that was a. I suppose if I'd asked in the beginning, the organisers probably would have told me, but I didn't want to ask. Like I said, I don't want to bring my personal issues into what I consider is a job. And indeed, they did actually offer me a bonus. I don't actually charge for my time. If you want to book me as a speaker, it won't cost you anything. Although, if you can cover my travel costs and accommodation, that always helps. Which it's not a deal breaker, but it does help if you can do that. If you're able to, if you have the resources. And when I say accommodation, somebody's settee will do. I don't insist on a nice room like this. But it's great if it's really good of the organisers to give me this room for the night. That's absolutely fantastic of them. And yeah, they did give me a bonus as well, which is I won't say how much, but it was very generous of them to do that. So I'm very much appreciative of that. Right. And now, of course, seeing as I'm in the Wetherspoons, I'm going to have the classic Spoons breakfast. And this is my door key here. Typical hotel door key, just a card. It's got a magnetic strip on, and it's got a magnetic thing on, so you just insert it into the lock and it's coded. Funny enough, the lady who served me, checked me in, she said, don't keep this near your mobile phone because the transmissions from the phone can sometimes make the card go crazy. This is just, as you know, if you remember during my Pentech video when I stayed at the Travelodge there, and they've still got like the old-fashioned keys, the keys which the metal ones which you put into a lock and turn, into a keyhole and you turn them. The classic keys that people have used for hundreds of years. And I was reminded of that old joke about, I don't know if it's a joke, apparently it is apocryphal, but it's kind of like a weird thing. The NASA, the American space program, spent $5 million developing a pen that works in zero gravity. The Russians, the Soviet Space Agency, they just used a pencil. Maybe that's why they got Yuri Gagarin into space first. See, I'm all in favour of technology, but sometimes I think we use technology for its own sake rather than because it's practical, or it's practical and it's like a positive alternative to the original, what you used to use before. So we use these electronic keys simply because they are electronic, despite their disadvantages, rather than just having the good old-fashioned ones where you stick in a key lock into a keyhole and turn, like the ones in the Travelodge near Cardiff. And presumably this little outlier hasn't caught up with the modern technology. Perhaps if I ever go back there, which I probably won't, even though I'm going back to Pentech, I probably won't go back there. But perhaps if I do go back there, I'll discover that they've actually modernised and they've got these things. Anyway, Dave's here, he's down in the bar, so I'm going to go and join him. I'm here with David here in the Wetherspoons, and we've just had breakfast. It's very nice, it is too. We're just now having we've had our refills of coffee, so that's one good thing. It's a good deal at Spoons. You can just keep refilling your coffee as often as you like, which is just perfect, I think. So yeah. Oh, welcome everyone. Welcome to Southend-on-Sea. This place I've never been to before. There's Waterstones. I wonder if they got a copy of Roswell Rising in there. I don't know. I sold 4 anyway. It's good. No bookshop discounts, so that's cool. So I'm walking along the main drag. I thought I'd explore a little bit here before I go home because there's no rush for me to get home. Actually, I don't have to work today, and there's a place I've never been to before. So I'd like to have a look around. You can hear seagulls in the background. Oh my god, they've got Illuminati pyramids. See them? That's not a good sign. Anyway, I'm going to take a little stroll along here, see what I can find. Looks like a fairly average British shopping street right now. But we'll see what happens when I go further. There's something called the Royal Shopping there. Oh, here's a map. That's always helpful, this is. It tells you where you're going. And so we are... Where am I? Here. Okay. That's like I said, I mentioned the very famous pier. So I think I'll go and check that out. This is along this way, I believe. Here we go. And I can see the sea. there is the sea. Yeah, it's not really seaside weather, unfortunately, but it's the first time I've seen the sea since I think I was on the Isle of Man a couple of years ago. It's a bit windy. You might not really hear me very well. I was just standing out to see the sea. It's about 10:30 in the morning, and this is the famous pier. It's the world's longest pier. It's literally like over a mile long. Let's see if I can find to walking along it. I wonder. I don't know, but there's like a fairground down there as well. So you've got to go down a little bit. It's quite hilly here. It's quite hilly here, surprisingly. But I'll see if I can go along. They may be shut. This pier was shut for a while because a ship crashed into that pier once, and so it was shut for a long time. But there is a train that goes along it. So if you feel kind of like you're not up to walking, you can always get the train. Is there any other pier in the world where you have a railway that goes along it? I think maybe on the Isle of Wight they have like the pier on the Isle of Wight, I remember, has a train. David Icke was showing to us because the ferry terminal is at the end of the pier at Ryde, where David lives, and there's a big long. There's like a railway track that goes all the way across the Isle of Wight. I remember. Here we are. Anyway, I could have just got the lift down. I thought I'd get the stairs because I'm an ex-hospital porter. Let's have a walk along here. See what happens if I walk along it. Oh, there's some artwork down here. This is nice. This reminds me very much of the coach. You remember the coach terminal at Los Angeles? Well, I forgot what it's called now, but there was like a coach place. It was called the bus park or something at Los Angeles Union Station. If you watch my Ben in the Desert 2, you'll see that. And it's got this artwork here. Look at this. You know what a big fan I am of non-conformist folk art. So let's have a look. There's a nautical theme. There's fish. There's a big little fish and a pirate mermaid sort of thing here. And that's really nice. Like a pastel like mermaid sort of figure. That's really nice. And here is a world famous Southend pier. There's a pier museum as well, so you can learn all about piers of the past and things like that. Okay, so got to cross over here. I can smell the fish. They're not open yet, but I can still smell the fish and chips. There's another lovely mural, I think by probably the same artist, similar style, very nice. Now there's kind of like I can smell they've got, this one could smell fish and chips out for breakfast. There's a fun fair, Adventure Island. Feel good. This is great. It's got a nice energy, this place. My first visit to Southend, and it's actually, I get like a good feeling about it. Okay, as well, I'm back up. This is how you get into the pier. I came in through the bottom entrance, they sent me upstairs. There's this big fairground here, it seems to be shut. But the pier is open. There's a lifeboat station here as well. We'll go have a look at that when we go in there. Here we go. Okay, there's warning signs everywhere saying that the floor might be slippery or uneven, and it is. It's not exactly good weather for any seaside activity, but you know, it's supposed to stop at midday, so it should stop just by the time I get back. Anyway, I'm now heading for the pier, the world's longest pier, and so it's in this direction. I might have up to walk it. It's a whole mile there, a whole mile back apparently. But I'm an ex-hospital porter, and I know it's raining, but who cares? I'm British, for goodness sake. This rain, this weather, it invigorates me, it enlivens me. I was made for weather like this. I'm British. Anyway, this here is the Thames estuary. You can just see this sea is the sea. The Thames estuary, you go that way and eventually ends up in London, which is where I'm going to go later on the train though. It'd be nice to get a boat though, wouldn't it? But anyway, here we go. And this is the railway. As you can see, there's actually a train that goes all the way along the pier. There's an orb there for getting any unwanted Boeing 777s that fly nearby. But you can get a train up the pier if you want, because it's that long. And this is the railway here. It takes you up to the end of the pier and back. This reminds me of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. When in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, they're kind of they're sitting on Southend Pier and they're saying it's like Southend, except the buildings keep going down, the sea stands stop still. And I thought they're probably drunk. There's these decorated benches every so far along here, so people can have a rest while they're walking. It seems like we haven't come very far. We've got a long way to go. So here we go. That over there is you can just see in the distance. Yeah, on the sea here. Those are there's an oil refinery over there that's the coast of Kent, and there's an oil refinery over there. And here's some information about the Southend-on-Sea foreshore. These are birds you can spot on the Southend-on-Sea foreshore. And here's the pier, you see. The pier actually, at low tide, it's not even out at sea. No, it's 1.33 miles long. I've just been looking it up on Wikipedia. It's 1.33 miles long, this pier. It's the longest pleasure pier in the world. Built in several stages from 1830. But it's had several collapses. It's had 3 fires, and the ship crashed into it in 1993. Oh, the train's coming. Look, here we go. You can actually get the train. So if I get tired if I forget I'm my ex-hospital porter at the end of the pier, I can just get the train back. Although you have to buy an extra ticket because it's £7 if you want to get the train. But here is the train. It takes you all the way back to. There we are, see? Sir William Woodgate. That's it, Southend Pier Railway. There you go. So, if you're not up to the walk, you can always do that. Although by the time I get to the end, I don't know if you can buy another ticket. Actually, you probably can, but it's £7 the ticket. It's only £1.60 to walk. £7 if you want to get the train. So I will walk in this if I feel up to it. Now, what's interesting is you can also get a fishing pass for £10. It's very good sea fishing at the end of the pier, famous for it. And so, still raining unfortunately, but never mind. Just looking at that thing there, I think it might have been, yeah, it used to be. It probably serves some function on the beach. It's a very big beach here, close to low tide. Clearly it's like a kind of, it used to be a ship, and it's been converted. And there's a ship. Cargo ship. There's another one over there. I think that's that a ship. What's that? Yeah, it's very distant, but there's a ship there. Yeah. Oh. The land is already looking distant in my vision. End of this. Every so far, this is the second one I passed. There's another one further back there. They have these little covered benches you can sit and rest on. Because, you know, not everyone who walks along this pier is a hospital porter or ex-hospital porter. There we go. Yeah, so you can sit here and have a rest. Yeah, I'm actually out of the wind here as well. These benches kind of remind me of the film Indecent Proposal. Did I ever tell you I love you? Yeah. But it's still raining, unfortunately. Very grim, but it's great. But I'll see what I can see anyway. And here's a place where that's a place where the train can get sidetracked. So you can go in there. I don't know why, whether there's more than one train or something. You'd think it wouldn't need it on a long straight line, but there you go. Yeah. I think this would actually make a good still for the title shots, or for the title pics and thumbnails. So I might just take a little quick still shot here. Oh, you get these signposts every so often telling you how far you are from the shore. So I've got 2/3 of a mile now, so I'm probably about halfway, and it sort of looks like that actually. I'm about halfway along. That one will also make a good still, I think, for the title shots. And of course, anyone who reads Percy and Mary Bennett, if you've ever read that book, it's really quite a remarkable book, because it talks about like stuff to do with Eugene Podkletnov and things like that, just in fictional form. It's very, very interesting. It's the free energy issue and Mars and ancient Mars and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a great place for ship spotting. If like me you love ships and the sea, this is just a really, really good place to be. I think there's another one coming. I might get to the end of the pier in time to see that pass, but that other ship there you see is already past us. There you go. There we go. Bring our latest batch of cheap disposable Chinese tat. How can we live without that? And we reach another of these rest points which tells you about certain pieces of history up here. And here we have the fact that it was used as a weapons platform in World War II. In World War I, there were actually prisoner of war hulks tied up here. Yeah. Oh, the train's coming back here. Oh, and you can get if you need any help here. If the distance gets too much for you, you can always ask for help. And there's this big ship here. There we go. Hapag-Lloyd is a Dutch ship, but it's getting closer now, so that's cool. There we are. And here come the trains coming back now. So if you want to get the train, this is the time to do it. I don't know if you can hear me, it's very, very windy. I'll have to put subtitles on like I did at Lapis if you can't, but I'll endeavour to speak up and make myself heard. There's the train, Sir William Burgate. No one's on it, but it makes the floor shake actually. But you know, on a day like this, you're not going to get many people coming up the pier like this. In the summer, on a nice day, there'll probably be lots of people walking up and down here. As you can see, the tide goes almost so far out that I could walk to the seafront without the pier. Although it probably wouldn't be safe, because when the tide turns and comes back in, you could easily be caught and be drowned in the sea, you know, like those poor Chinese guys. The ship is coming, the ship is getting closer, and there goes the ship. Yeah. Heading into one of the ports around here. Hapag-Lloyd container ship. Okay, I'm approaching the pier. I'm approaching the pier head now. As you can see, there's a train there. There's more than one train that does this journey. You'd think there'd only be one, but there's a second train here, as you can see there. And this is the station. It's like a little railway station. Everything in miniature. But here we've made it. I don't know if there's some kind of sign. I'm half expecting to see some kind of sign there which says, "Congratulations, you've achieved." You know, by walking to the end of Southend Pier, you've achieved this amazing feat. Well, we'll see. But there's a little archway thing above the entrance to the pier head, so we shall see. But anyway, here we go. That's the driver there. He's going to get into his cab, and that's the train. I might get that back. I'll see how I feel. It's only a few quid. I might get it back. But that's how you. That's one way of getting to and from the pier. There we go. Here we are. You can this is the entrance. So this is the pier head, and we'll see what's here. There's lots of places, fish and chip places here, and around here we have more stalls. Southend, I like the decorations. and the pictures here. But obviously it's like a little picnic place, but obviously not in this weather. It's not a good place in this weather. But here we are, 1.33 mile, 1.33 miles out to sea. It doesn't feel like that. It doesn't feel like that, but there's the coastline. I can well believe actually on a really foggy day you wouldn't be able to see that. It would feel like you're on some kind of island. It would be amazing. Let's have a look here. There's the ship. Past. Here we are, Southend Pier and the Great Wall. Alright, this is about the POWs. It says prison ships spotting enemy aliens. Oh dear, enemy aliens! A few of them. Were moored off Southend Pier from 1914 to 1915. Yeah. There's a prison ship. It was actually a Cunard line. Oh goodness me, it wasn't that bad. Casualties brought to Southend Pier head. They don't like that. They look quite cheerful there, don't they? I'll just have another look round. But here, it's quite large, this pier head. There's quite a lot here. What's this here? Toilets. Oh, we've got toilets. There we are. Just bogs, standard bogs. It's quite a new bit, this. It must be strange to work out here, you know, to be in one of these fish and chip shops and kind of like spend your day here on this little pocket of this pocket of civilization or pocket of construction in isolation, in the isolation of the sea. Coffee and snacks. There, look. And there's another little stretch here. There's more at the end here. Oh, it's getting windy again. You have the mirrors. Hello. That one looks quite normal. What is this one? Strange one. Gives me a strange look. How about this? I'm kind of like short and stumpy with big feet. This one, yeah. Dwarf Hobbit Ben. That's good, isn't it? Share your silly self. Here's this like big building. There's a big construction here at this part at the pier head. So I'll see if we can get into this. This looks quite new and modern. Oh, here. Well done. You've reached the end of Southend Pier. 1.33 miles, 7,080 feet. Yeah. Didn't feel like 1.33 miles. But there you go, we made it. You can't get down here. This is where they keep the enemy aliens. There you go, you can't get down there. And there's some ice cream. It's not really an ice cream kind of day, but you can actually get ice cream here if you want. And here is the very end. It's the end of the line. No overhead cuts. That's for fishing. And there is the sea! That's right. Here's where you can sit in nicer weather. We'll see what's in this building. Pirate ships on the wall. And there's a sea monster there. There's a bit more over there. Oh, that's the way we came. That's where we came in. But you can just see the shore in the distance. Look at this fella here. That's it, you can send your images to them if you want. Pieces of 8, pieces of 8. Let's see, show chairs. Yeah, that's it. Who's this fella? I think it's C3PO. Yes, it is. Without the silver leg. It's all silver. Cue the Mandela effect. No silver leg. What's on this side? Oh, it's shut. There's just one more bit we've got to look at. This is here. So there's a little bit more to see. Just going to have a look now. Is it the lifeboats? Oh, cool. And again, you can't visit the enemy aliens. And here we are, NLI. Come and visit us. Oh, like, I'll go in there and have a look. I'll go in there and have a look. It's the RNLI lifeboat station, shop. Again, enemy aliens down below. There are boats that they have here. There's different boats. Get yourself various things here. Dyson chessboard game. Boat models.
No, I'm not going to do it. Stop, we only just got these today. So.
Oh, look, here are the boats. There we are. They launched them from up here for anyone in distress in the sea. Engine boat there, look. And this is their equipment.
Well, that's, you know, that's exactly what I was thinking. Nice and sunny there, rainy.
Donate. As you can see there, they have it's a big Dorking airlock. They're probably used to wind. And here, and here's their different lifeboat stations all around the coast. We went to the ones, you remember, Little and Broadhaven. I went near there anyway. I didn't actually go into it. You may wonder why I didn't give any donations. I can't in good conscience, when you consider how the RNLI is simply being used to import illegal migrants on bloody rubber dinghies. That's what a lot of them just go out into the middle of the sea and they just wait there for the RNLI to come pick them up. Yeah, and you can see this is a good point here. This is where I just walked all the way along there from the shore, 1.33 miles. And the shore does look very remote from this point. It really does. Anyway, the sun deck is open, so I'm going to go up to the sun deck, which is a bit of a joke in this weather. But there you go. You can't get down there. The bench is very, very suitable. It has like these things. There's a little memorial here, I think, for various lifeboatmen. That's how they launched the boats with those. These big davits and these cranes. Yeah. That's a TV aerial, so they can watch Celebrity Love Island while they're on call. There we go. And there's a big bell here. What's this? What's that? What happens then to this? What happens if I ring it? 1929. There's no clapper in it. What happens if I ring it? Ring my bell, ring my bell. What happens? And here we are over the sea. See the sea. It's not very sunny, so I'm not going to stay on the sun deck. It's like a slipway here. That might be something they used to use for lifeboats, but it's not in use today. You can't get there. You can't get to it. It's just these floorboards are a little bit slippery actually. So I'm now going to sort of find my way back to the shore. So I'll head there now. I don't fancy an ice cream or anything. There's a map there, you can see how the pier head goes. This is the station. There we go. This is the station, this is the railway station here. Probably the smallest and most unusual railway station I've been to. You can't get a ticket though. But anyway, let's have a look at let's have a look here. I can actually upgrade my walking ticket to a railway ticket for £6.10. So I could if I wanted to, but this is the station here, sort of small railway station here. Unfortunately I can't. There's no one there, so I can't buy a ticket, so I have to walk back. Not the end of the world. I mean, I was thinking about getting the train back, but it's not the end of the world. I'm an ex-hospital porter. I think have I mentioned that before? I think I might have referred to it once or twice in the last couple of years, that I am an ex-hospital porter. So I'll just walk back along the pier. Won't be too bad. The rain is easing off actually. But here, this is the station. I'll give you a quick tour of the station. It's like a pretty ordinary railway station, just in miniature. Here's your tracks, and here's another train here, see? Here's another little Southend Railway train, so you can get to and from the pier head, and then there's the high tide, low tide marks here, and there's trains go every half hour. This is just the office for the staff, but again, and there's some people getting on the train here. We could watch the train approach, but can't get on it. There we are, look. Here he comes. Yeah. There's the train. It's a diesel engine, I think. There we go. We'll have a quick look inside. Not very comfortable, but then it's not really a very long journey, so it doesn't really matter. But let's have a quick look in there. Let's see. A quick look inside. Oh yes, it reminds me of the little funicular at Gatwick Airport and the various other airports. You get these little these little trains, these little funicular trains. It reminds me of that. Anyway, guys, better start the walk back. Here we go on the long straight journey back, and you can hear the sea lapping against the pilings on the pier. Yep, you see the shore gradually get closer and closer as we get closer and closer to the end of the pier. Hey, that was interesting. I enjoyed that. I really enjoyed that. Here comes the train again. Again. Here comes the train again. La 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 la. I'll probably get a bit if I get to the like rest point first. I will just see it more easily. Oh, right. Come on. There it comes. Well, I'll come here again when the weather's nicer. Yeah, Dave and Sue will book me again. They were really impressed with my talk, I should say, and I'm really glad I did a good job for them. And they're a great couple. It's a great group. I'm sorry I couldn't show you any of them, but I don't turn my camera on the audience without their permission. There's some people who may not want people to know that they're there. Some of them there's a couple of guys who are serving police officers, for example, and there is the railway on their way back. I can feel the vibrations under my feet. Yeah, some of the, as you often find in, if you go to these conferences and events, there are some people there who don't want people to know that they're a member of the group. They're in that sort of involved in that kind of thing. Usually for sensitive professional matters. As Dave said, there's a couple, I don't know who they were, but there are a couple of people in the audience who are serving in the police force. There are a couple of like people who look quite posh. There was this Asian chap who, Dave told me his name, but so I won't repeat it. Very, very well dressed, well spoken young man. Apparently he's quite shy and doesn't talk much, but he goes regularly. It's could be, yeah. It's kind of like he may be in this kind of job that he, again, he doesn't want his boss to find out. That's understandable. I mean, I'm a living proof of that, aren't I? Here we are. This is the 1 mile to the shore. 1 mile from the shore here, right? So that's good. Let's see if I can run it in 4 minutes like Roger Bannister. I don't think so. I'll take my time. Old Roger's got nothing to worry about me breaking his record. And there we reach the old, we reach the turnaround spot here for the trains. And as you can see, it actually says to this the 2/3 of a mile place here. So there's a TV aerial as well. There's a lot of those along here. TV aerials are a bit old-fashioned, really, aren't they? But you see a lot of them along here on this pier. They're a bit behind the times. There's another giant ship, another container vessel. Wow, that's really loaded up. And here comes the train again. It's on its way back to the end of the pier. As you can see, we're more than halfway along now, but this train will take us all the way up there. We're nearly at the shore. Shouldn't take that long. Oh, cool. That reminds me of Jacob. Those people at the hanging by the windows like that, they're reminding me of Jacob's ladder. You know, that's hanging by the windows like that. Here we go. We're nearly there now. See where the station is, because there's that big building there. If you remember on our right, there's this big tent-like structure by the station, so it should be easy enough to find the station even without my map, by just heading towards that. There. It's a hovercraft. Yeah, it's a little hovercraft. I think it's probably the RNLI. I thought a strange noise I could hear in the distance. I thought, what was that? Wow, don't see many of them. And so the hovercraft is there, just going up a little slope there. And I'm approaching the shore end of the pier. Yes, I've walked all the way to the end and back of the world's longest pleasure pier. And it was really amazing. And obviously, I think on a nicer day it will be better, but you know, I can't blame. Well, here's where the orb is, still hanging there. No 777 flying around that they want to orb. And there is they see it's just parked there. I suppose it's got to go up that slip there, but it's just parked. That's a good way of getting around, isn't it? And here we are at the other end of the pier. All that way from there. Wow, look at that. Don't know how much you can see. I might have to actually come down the slope a little bit to see to the end. But there is. Yeah, walked all the way from the end of the pier there. Look at that. Wow, what a distance. Just very limits of focus. The very limits that this camera can actually see. And I'm back. Yeah. That's quite something. I'm glad I did that. Rain or no rain. Again, I've seen a lot of like really good artwork in Southend. There's that kind of almost Disney-like cartoon of a lion or some other big cat. And there is, I don't know what that is there. But look what's up on that. Look what's up on that hotel. Kind of like almost like a. Wow, it's almost like a Mayan or Aztec thing. And there's that city of Southend, city of jam. City of jam. Is that what it says? City jam. All right. Stop for tea, a mile out to sea. Well, I didn't do that, but I went a mile out to sea. Look, a boat trip. Adopt a pier plank. Oh, I suppose that's how they fund it, isn't it? And there it is, that's where I went. Wow. Cool. Wicked. I'm going to check out this tower thing now. It looks a bit spooky, looks like there's a UFO on top of it. Let's have a look. Oh, there's a lift that takes you up here, that's cool. And this big tower. Now you got the stairs, but I'm going to go up the lift. I've walked enough for today, I think. Even an ex-hospital porter is a bit much, but anyway. I think you get like a view if you go up here. Yeah, it's quite something. Up we go. Ooh. Oh, wicked. Ooh.
Floor 2.
Right. There's a viewing deck, it says here.
Doors opening.
There you get a good view out to sea. As you can hear me, there's a view out to sea. And you can see all the length of the pier there, you see? The whole length from one end to the other. There we are. Wow. You can see the whole thing here, but honestly that pier is so long, it feels like another world when you get to the other end of it. It's amazing. And there's like a bridge that takes me to the rest of the shore now. But look at these images. Look at these pictures, man. Look at those. Isn't that incredible? Oh my god, that's a bit sinister. That's a bit scary looking. There's sort of cartoon figures there. Very politically correct. But you can just walk along this bridge here, it takes you to the rest of the shore. You can see these images clearer now. See, there's a tiger underneath the Aztec thing. That's like an elephant. Yeah, multicoloured elephant. It looks like an elephant after you've been on an acid trip. And there's this weird thing here. It looks a bit creepy, like someone being grabbed by zombies. And there's this politically correct, strange mural here. I saw a lot of other actual. I mean, I said to Dave, I said there's lots of really amazing artwork here, you know, and he says, yeah, there's a lot of that in Southend, some really great murals. I didn't get the chance to film them, but yeah, you know, I love that kind of artwork. Anyway, I've got to get to the station now, so let's cross over here, and we're back on the main drag. Straight up there, turn left, and at the central station, which is where I want to go. And there's that tent thing there. It's just South Essex College. That's the pub I stayed in last night, the Wetherspoons. The first post. Yeah. Nice old building that, and it's you can see on the other side, it's a big building, goes all the way through to the other street. I'll show you it. And it's like, you know, Wetherspoons are lovely places anyway. And there's some great artwork and stuff in there. So I didn't have time to show you all of it, but yeah, Wetherspoons is kind of, as I said, it's a place where I feel at home. It's a place where I feel nice. And I just feel like I belong, you know what I mean? And there it is, there's the other side of the last post. There you are. Big Wetherspoons goes all the way through to the other street. And here we are at the railway station for the first stage of my journey home, which is a trip I've got to get to train back to Fenchurch Street in London. So that's where I'm going to go now. There's that big tent, apparently South Essex College or whatever it was. So I'm on the station. I've actually found a slightly earlier train. There was the one to Fenchurch Street is at 10 to 1, but in just 4 minutes time there's one going to Liverpool Street, so I'll get on that one instead. Thoughts about Essex and Southend? Lovely place, absolutely lovely. Nice energy, beautiful Wetherspoons. People seem to be calm and relaxed here. Obviously I've been here less than 24 hours, but that's just how I feel. It was a great experience exploring the seafront and the pier. That was great, and I'm really glad I did that, rain or no rain. Obviously I'm biased because the group I've just spoken at was one of the best I've ever been to. It was you know, I mean, it was absolutely, there was lovely people like Dave and Sue who run it, a really great couple, and their friend Phil who cooked the pizza, and he cooks a fantastic pizza in a proper oven. And you know, they were very generous. They gave me, like I said, a bonus, which I don't ask for, but they gave me a very generous bonus for my time. The group of people there, as you heard, their questions and comments were fantastic. They're really nice people, friendly, respectful. who enjoyed, and they came up to me and said what a good talk it was and stuff like that. And there must be 40 to 50 of them, so it's one of the biggest crowds I've actually played for a long time. And I'm glad I did. Yeah, I'm glad, very glad I came here. Very glad. I needn't have worried about old Dave Young, but you know I did. I didn't want to mention it, but yeah, I did. And so, yeah, it's now time to go home. But there's no it's only 12:30. There's no particular rush to get home. I've got nothing else to do today really, except travel. So, if I get home early enough, I'll edit and maybe upload the video I'm making now. But there's no, again, I could take it easy today. But the train is now coming, so maybe we'll get to London a bit earlier than I thought. So no harm. I might have a meal at another Wetherspoons actually, if I can find one. On this side of the train this time. Oh, look at those boats, man.
The next station is Southend-on-Sea.
This station is called Barking. Obviously lots of dogs live here. Oh, the sun's come out, how about that? Yeah, welcome to London Liverpool Street Station. Different station I went to, it's actually a bit quicker. I'm not in any particular rush to get home, but unfortunately London on a Saturday is not a very nice place to hang around. This is an interesting sculpture here. The children of the Kindertransport. Oh, I know what this is. They're getting kids, freeing kids from the Nazis, because like when the Nazis took power, the Jews had to flee, and these little kids are like Anne Frank, or I know Anne Frank was in the Netherlands, but kids had to like escape, and they used to come through here, this station, because this station is on the route to Harwich, which is the main port where you get like car ferries and things like that to Germany, usually through the Netherlands. So this station would have been very important. I'm guessing that's the history connected to this station, I suppose. So that's it. That's why they put that there. Yeah. In fact, the reason I know that is because when I was a kid and we used to go to the Netherlands to see my family, when we didn't drive, we used to come through this station, get the boat train to Harwich on the car ferry across the Hook of Holland. Long time ago now, and I ain't going back. As the saying goes, never again. Okay, well, it looks like you can't get in. I know that the other gate actually is open at the station, so you can get in there. But this is kind of another. It's funny, after I saw those people hanging out the window with their hands, you know, standing by the windows on the Southend Pier train earlier, and it reminded me of Jacob's Ladder. Here's another reminder of Jacob's Ladder. If you want to know more about Jacob's Ladder, I've done an entire watch party for it, which you can find on my channel. And here we have, looks like we've got a strange sculpture made of little like melted jumping jacks. Hey guys, well, I'm in this place. I'm having dinner right now. I'm having dinner in this burger bar with a slightly paradoxical name of Honest Smash and Grab, but I'll let you know what it's like. Well, I'll try and do my Keith Floyd voice. That wasn't bad at all. Yeah, £26. A bit more expensive than your average at McDonald's or KFC, but much tastier, quite spicy, tangy, and also had some like cheesy chips with like spice on. They're very nice, and you get free refills on the drinks as well. So yeah, generally pretty good. Honest smash and grab. Now what's weird about this, right? If you just imagine you're on like one of these travelators at the airport, the ones that go flat, it looks like everyone is leaning backwards, doesn't it? It's really strange. When you go down and you do the same thing, it looks like everyone's leaning forwards. Yeah, it's working. Okay guys, I'm at Holborn Station now. For those of you who have good memories, you'll know that this is where Miles said an alien base was. I went and had a look for it, couldn't find it anywhere.
On the right-hand side, change for Jubilee and Piccadilly line.
Alright guys, I'm finally out of that sewer on rails called the London Underground, and out in the fresh air at last. I'm going to get my coach home. I'm here at Victoria. Just been in the Sainsbury's in here. This is in the Victoria Place shopping centre, just attached to the station. Just went into the shop, and there's these auto tills, usual thing. One man behind the counter, Asian chap, and I like a sort of like looking bustling, looking very busy. And I went up to him and I says, "What do you want? You want cigarettes? You want cigarettes? You want bits?" I said, "No, I just want to buy this." And I showed him the groceries that I'd been picked up off the shop. He said, "No, you come here, sir. You go there." I mean, he showed me to the auto tills, and I said, "Well, no, I'd like to be served by a human being, please, not a machine." No, must do this, must do this. And I said, "Well, could you do it then, please?" "Is me do it?" Yes, it's you do it, because these things are putting you out of a job. And so he did everything through the auto till for me. But then this is kind of like, I don't know if you ever read my Tesco Butlerian Jihad articles on her Panwo voice, but this is kind of what I'm talking about, you know. People are being replaced. As Charlie Chaplin said, a machine shouldn't speak for men. Well, that was actually that rap by Immortal Technique, which is based on that Charlie Chaplin speech where he says, "Don't be machine men with machine minds. You're not machines, you're men," he said. And that's kind of like how I feel. That's what I can't try to tell this guy. But I didn't film it. Obviously, I was in the shop. I didn't have time to get my camera out and do an interview. But that was the experience I had, and I bought what I wanted. But it wasn't, I just think that Sainsbury's should always have at least one human being serving at all times for whatever you want to buy. And they didn't in this case. It wasn't this guy's fault. He says, "What can I do? What can I do? I work here." I understand that. It's a shame, because he is in a bit of a helpless situation. It's a shame that he is in this situation. That this lady was on the till she was on the auto till next to me. She says, "I asked him too," and he said, "No, you can't do it." So obviously the customer, it's what I'd say to Sainsbury's, this is what the customer wants. They want to be served by human beings. In the Tesco's down the road from where I work and where I do a lot of my jobs, I always use the human tills, and I know there's these two people always on there. One of them's called Lemoncini and the other's called Beverly. And I got to know them, I have conversations with them. You can't do that with a bloody robot. Anyway, rant over.
I've just realised there's everything else going on. I don't know what happened in the England-Wales rugby game. Could you tell us any of you? Well, by the time you watch this, we'll all know.
Hey, well, welcome back to Oxford and welcome back to South Mudpit. Yes, I have returned. It's been a good old trip and I've enjoyed it very much. Short but sweet. Just one overnight stay and then I'm back home. I must say, it's been fun. It's been fun. Tiring but fun. Did a really good talk. Really good group. Thank you very much to Dave, Sue, Phil, everyone else at that group. Really, really do appreciate the people who bought books. I hope you enjoy them. And it's loads of people there. Last week there was probably more than 50 people there. It's one of the biggest crowds I've had. And they asked good questions. They were very respectful. They enjoyed what I did. Southend's a lovely place. Great fun today. Exploring the seafront, going up the pier. Really had a wonderful time. So that's it. There's lots more coming up on Panwo TV, so don't go too far, will you? Keep an eye on the channel. Thank you for watching Panwo TV. Hospital Porters, pride and dignity. Stop the New World Order.